One winter's night in 1995, three gangsters drove down a country lane in the village of Rettendon. They were the notorious Essex boys, and they were falling into a trap. Their reign as one of Britain's most ruthless drug gangs was about to end. Within minutes, all three men were gunned down in a violent ambush. The next morning, Rettendon awoke to a horrific crime scene. And the Essex boys were destined to go down in underworld legend.
Detectives believe the killings have all the hallmarks of a gangland murder.
The Rettendon murders, also known as the Essex Boys murders, is one of the most notorious and brutal chapters in the history of British crime, marked by the violent deaths of three men found in a Range Rover down a remote farm track in Rettendon, Essex on December 6, 1995. The victims were Tony Tucker, Tate and Craig Rolfe, all of whom were major players in the drug scene in Essex and had extensive criminal backgrounds. Their murders exposed the dark underbelly of the UK criminal world, involving drug trafficking, gangland feuds, and the dangerous lives led by those involved in organised crime. Tony Tucker, Tate and Craig Rolfe were deeply embedded in the criminal networks that dominated Essex in the 1990s. They were involved in security operations for nightclubs, which served as a front for their more lucrative endeavours in drug distribution, primarily dealing with ecstasy, amphetamines and cocaine. Their reputation for extreme violence and intimidation tactics was well known, making them feared figures within the criminal underworld. The events leading up to their murders were a complex web of drug deals gone bad, betrayal, and escalating tensions within the Essex criminal fraternity. On the night of December 6, 1995, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Tate and Mr. Rolfe were found shot dead in a Range Rover on a secluded farm track in Rettendon. Precision of the killings, each man was shot in the head at close range, suggested a professional hit, sparking widespread speculation about who was responsible and the motive behind the murders. The investigation into the murders was extensive, with Essex police delving into the victims' criminal activities and associations. In 1998, Michael Steele and Jack Holmes were convicted of the murders, primarily based on the testimony of a supergrass, Darren Nichols, who claimed to have been involved in the planning of the hit. Mr. Steele and Mr. Holmes were sentenced to life imprisonment, but they have consistently maintained their innocence, leading to several appeals and campaigns supporting their release. Over the years, multiple theories have emerged regarding the motive behind the murders. Some suggest that the killings were a result of a drug deal gone wrong, or a power struggle within the Essex criminal underworld. Others believe that the murders were sanctioned by higher-ups in the drug trade, possibly as a message to other would-be traitors. The involvement of supergrass testimonies in the convictions of Mr. Steele and Mr. Holmes has also been a point of contention, with critics arguing that reliance on the word of criminals can lead to miscarriages of justice. The Rettendon murders have had a lasting impact on popular British culture, inspiring books, documentaries and films such as The Essex Boys, Bonded in Blood and Rise of the Foot Soldier. These works explore the lives of Mr. Tucker, Mr. Tate and Mr. Rolfe, as well as the grim realities of gangland violence and the drug trade in Essex. They also examine the broader themes of loyalty, betrayal, and the quest for power within the criminal underworld. The Rettendon murders remain a dark symbol of the violence and treachery inherent in the world of organised crime. Despite the convictions of Mr. Steele and Mr. Holmes, questions and theories about the murders continue to circulate, reflecting the complex and shadowy nature of the criminal networks and the difficulty of achieving justice in cases marred by betrayal and corruption. The legacy of the murders is a cautionary tale about the cost of life in the fast lane of crime, where loyalty is fleeting and death is just around the corner.
Under cover of darkness, just over a year ago, members of the firm, a major Essex drugs gang, are on their way to a meeting. Their Range Rover pushes down a lonely farm track. Seconds later, all three men were dead. blasted in the head from a pump-action shotgun at point-blank range. Craig Rolfe, aged 26, the driver, killed so fast his hands were still on the wheel, one foot firmly on the brake. Slumped in the back, Pat Tate, 37, a violent man, a bodybuilder, shot in the stomach and head. In front, Tony Tucker, 38, a prominent member of the firm, a gang of up to 80 people. There was so little blood spilt, those who found them thought they were asleep. 2 men from outside the firm have been charged with the murders. As the police went to work, news ran through the underworld. The astonishment of gangsters matched that of detectives.
The murder itself sent a message throughout the country. There was not a villain, you know, in the whole of the country who wasn't talking about this murder. They could not understand how 3 people could be shot together with the reputation that they had.
A few miles away, a family was also facing tragedy in the national spotlight.
It's coming up to 12 minutes past 7.
An Essex teenager is in a coma after taking a... Leah Betts from Latchington near Malden collapsed at her 18th birthday party after taking...
Just 3 weeks before the murders, Leah Betts had died after swallowing a tablet of pure ecstasy. Until tonight, nobody has overcome the fear of the firm to show how Leah Betts was as much a victim of them as a victim of ecstasy. Leah's parents embarked on a national campaign against drug dealing.
I've got anger, hate, and I've got love. I've got love for my daughter. I've got anger for the people with the drugs, and I hate this bastard that supplied them.
To follow events from the firm to the death of Leah Betts, you have to enter the criminal badlands of Essex. Bernard O'Mahony's story is one of extreme violence, and yet it takes place in the setting of orderly Basildon Newtown. But beneath the skin of this place, down in the criminal ganglands, there is real fear. Inquiries from journalists are met with, at best, a wall of silence, if not outright intimidation. And the penalties here for grassing on criminals are swift and violent. The firm built its reputation around the explosive temper and drug-induced rages of Pat Tate.
Tate was a violent man by nature. He also used drugs to a large extent. He used steroids in a big way to actually assist his bodybuilding and work in the gymnasium. When he walked into the door, he in fact filled the doorway, and so quite an intimidating character just by his physical presence.
A presence honed by eating steroids in abundance and working out fanatically at the Academy gym near Southend. The manager recalls Tate, Tucker and Rolfe as regulars.
They were gentlemen here, basically. I mean, outside, yes, they had a reputation. I suppose people were probably wary of them, but they were nice people in here, to me anyway.
Tucker enjoyed a cherished status symbol, being chief minder to a major boxer. He accompanied the former super middleweight champion Nigel Benn to the ring and to public appearances, large and menacing. His house, £250,000 worth of bungalow on the eastern fringes of London. Naturally, Tucker was a cash buyer.
Essex's problem, if you like, is that since the war have had an influx of people from the East End of London who have settled here on new housing estates and indeed have purchased property in Essex. And this old culture has come with them.
Some in the firm already had a large empire, controlling doors at clubs across the region. Club UK in Ipswich, Hollywood's in Romford, Club Art in Southend and Club UK in South London. Lucrative and legitimate. But what the firm really wanted was not legitimate. Because controlling the doors at clubs can mean running the drug sales inside, where the real money can be made. By now the firm was establishing a national reputation for intimidation, enforcement and drug dealing.
they wouldn't dirty their hands, I don't think, with actually selling it to the kids in the discos or the clubs. So you need that network to be set up for the eventual sale of the drugs, and you know, the tentacles of that could fan out, you know, over an enormous area.
To people like Kevin Whitaker, whose parents lived comfortably away from the more deprived estates of Basildon. Kevin had become caught up in the firm's drug dealing. His parents took calls from a taciturn man who cannot be named for legal reasons.
It was just a case of, is Kevin there? No. Can I take a message? I'll just tell him called.
Bernard was told that one day 2 members of the firm picked Whitaker up. He owed them money and they were angry. Kevin Whitaker was in serious trouble. They headed out of town. In the car, the firm threatened to give him a forcible overdose of drugs. They reached an industrial estate on the edge of Basildon.
Come on. Come on, get up. Come on, get up.
But he couldn't get up, because Kevin Whitaker was dead. The firm had claimed another life. Afraid they'd be spotted, they put him back in the car and drove several miles before dumping his body at the roadside. The coroner recorded an open verdict. He stated,
There was a series of relatively fresh injection marks over the right elbow, with some older marks to the right forearm, consistent with non-therapeutic injection.
His parents were horrified. They have never felt it was the suicide of a drug addict, as some suggested.
He didn't like needles. We were told initially that there were 3 marks in his right arm. I said, well, he's right-handed, so he wouldn't have done that. If he was going to do something, it would be in his left arm.
Well, the verdict was an open verdict the coroner gave, but I felt it should have been a murder verdict. But I was just flabbergasted, really, at the verdict, open verdict.
Essex police say the file's open, but they've no firm evidence that Kevin Whitaker was murdered. 1994, and by now the firm had a national reputation for drugs and general enforcement. There were frequent business trips outside Essex. Some members passed 3 industrious days in Bristol, dealing with a man who owed money. They began their visit by plunging the man's house into darkness. Back in Basildon, Raquel's was becoming one of the most popular venues in the area. Its Friday rave nights are remembered with much affection by some.
It was brilliant. It was the best thing that ever happened to Basildon. I mean, comparative to the clubs that were around, that's the only thing for young people.
There obviously was drugs going on in there, but they couldn't stamp it out, and if they saw anybody in there, they'd chuck them out, so...
But they wouldn't call the police?
No, but if you called the police for everybody with 1 pill, then you could have the police down there every week.
You just knew it was all happening because you could see everything, you'd see people doing things. Dealing, do little bits of deals, this, that and the other. It was just obvious that, you know, what was happening in there. But I mean, everybody knew what was going on, so it wasn't just hidden.
The leaders of the firm moved in quickly to control this trade. Mark Murray had another perfect marketplace sorted. Mid-30s, designer clothes, showy and brash. Murray had a dangerously loud mouth, plus the typical dealer's style, staying put, watching his drug sellers fan out through the club.
He was just flash, obviously, with his tipping, and he was always buying big rounds. And obviously he was older than a lot of people in there. So, and it was just the kind of way he dressed and the way he portrayed himself was flash, basically, and it wasn't anything.
He always stood in the same place?
He was always by our bar.
For the whole evening?
Not constantly, but generally for a lot of the time. He wasn't really a dancer. You wouldn't see him on the dance floor, would you? But he was generally around our bar, talking to people and that. But...
So you got someone who's very flash, obviously got a lot of money, always in there on that night, doesn't move much from where they are, doesn't dance, and is slightly older. Does that not arouse some suspicion about what he might have been doing?
We weren't there to have suspicions, we were there to serve him. I mean, we didn't sit there and think, I wonder what Mark's doing here.
A former dealer knew exactly what Murray was doing there.
Mark Murray was a very greedy man. He would take drugs from the people that were dealing them on big promises that he'd sell the lot and return the money, but he never did. He owed a lot of people money.
And he was a dealer?
He was a dealer, yeah.
In Rackels?
In Rackels. And I've dealt drugs with Mark Murray, yeah, in my time.
But what makes you so sure that Murray was dealing in Rackels?
I've seen Murray dealing in Rackels.
Openly?
Openly, yeah.
What did you see?
I've seen Murray going up to young ladies, young lads selling these, or if not, he'd pass them on to his runners and sell them.
With the protection of the firm, Murray felt he could afford to be arrogant and open about his trading. Other dealers describe how protected Murray was.
I've personally seen Murray go into a club, walk straight up to the door and not even get his name checked off the guest list. Straight in, no mucking about, no searching, nothing. He'd take the boys in with him who would be holding the gear. Someone would go up to him, "Mark, I need some gear," and he'd take them to one of his dealers, and as soon as they'd introduced, he'd walk away. He was arrogant to the point where he believed he owned the club. I'm sure he did.
But Murray's world began to fall apart. Across the southeast, his dealers were being busted. In just over a year, several young men he'd used were charged with selling drugs. Club UK, South London, 2 years ago, and the police burst in, a mass televised drugs raid. Murray's dealers here panicked. They dropped over 800 ecstasy pills on the floor. Even worse for him, they'd been supplied on credit by the boss of the firm. Murray was in a mess even he couldn't talk his way out of. He faced a choice of disappearing or meeting the firm. He went to see them. To repay his debt, and with many of his sellers arrested, he had to deal himself on the floor of Raquel's. 12 miles away in her home village, Leah Betts was preparing to celebrate her 18th birthday with an ecstasy tablet.
The Leah Betts tragedy began on Saturday night when Leah's brother called out to her parents that their 18-year-old daughter had collapsed at their home in Latchington near Malden.
With Leah Betts in a coma, the media swung into overdrive. For once, the parents of a drug victim wanted publicity. The photo of Leah on a life support machine was released. She became overnight a national symbol of parents' concern about drugs. The effect on Raquel's was immediate and final.
It was dead, totally dead. There was television cameras outside, police outside, people handing out their pictures of Leah Betts in a coma, and obviously that wasn't the environment for people to come in. They didn't want to come and have police searching them, police looking at them. They didn't want their mums particularly seeing them walking into clubs, maybe.
Tim Gillett has joined me in the studio. Tim.
David, bad news. The 18-year-old Latchington teenager, Leah Betts, has died at Broomfield Hospital. Leah's parents have told a news conference at the hospital.
She told me that she had taken it before, 3 times before. This was the 4th occasion. She told me that it had been dubs she'd taken before, and this was an apple. She told me she'd even taken a joint. And we subsequently found out afterwards that she'd even tried speed. Now, it comes home a little bit hard because you think that your daughter is pure and clean, and there wasn't any telltale signs up until then.
For the firm, Leah's death was catastrophic. The public scrutiny was intense. They were under suspicion. One of those being questioned was Mark Murray. To take the heat off, the firm tried to get Stephen Packman, a friend of Leah Betts, to admit to the crime. When he was questioned by police, the firm put him in the national spotlight. The newspaper got its pictures of the innocent Packman. Suspicion was deflected from the firm. The photos and tapes became central to the prosecution case during last week's trial. Packman was acquitted. To this day, he has never identified Mark Murray. When Murray dealt at the club during the Friday night raves, he lived here in Basildon's maze-like Summercoats estate. But Murray's now fled to Spain, from where we secretly taped him, protesting his innocence.
And this other thing about how I've been already, I've been taken in or they said I'm a drug dealer and this, that and the other. I've never been arrested for anything in my life. A convicted drug dealer, he said in the paper. What's all this? at the moment, you're saying to clear my name, but at the moment, there's nothing wrong with my name. If there was anything wrong with my name, there'd be a warrant out for my arrest, surely. See, the thing is, I've never met this fucking Pac-Man. But this is what I'm thinking. Has the fella been threatened? I'm not going to criminally say because I've done nothing. There's people I know, you know what I mean, that are, how can we say, dangerous people.
Is it those dangerous people who are keeping Murray abroad?
I'm not coming back to England for a moment.
In a statement last week, Essex police said,
Mark Murray was arrested during the course of the inquiry. There was insufficient evidence to charge him, and no fresh evidence to lead to further arrests. As far as this investigation is concerned, this is as far as we can go.
The real people have got away scot-free, haven't they?
But I totally agree with you. It's the big fish that I would love to stick out of sight, throw away the key, and never worry about again.
What parents don't understand is that recreational drug use is now so common that kids will go into a club and they will pop a pill in exactly the same frame of mind as we would have a pint. They see it as no different to that.
The story of Raquel's and the firm raises major questions for club owners, the council and the police. Questions echoed across Britain. On the issue of the club's licence, Essex police told dispatches,
there were no grounds to oppose the granting of a licence to the holder of Raquel's. There is a vast difference between inference or allegations and the type of hard evidence which can be put before a court.
Last December, and a new name, a new nightclub for young Basildon. Queues go round the block for the place European leisure hopes will erase bad memories of Raquel's. Club Europa opening up on the site of the old Raquel's nightclub, and the management have made it plain that they want to run a club as far as possible which is free from drugs. But to do that, they're going to have to exercise tight control over the door and not let the door be controlled by gangsters. Equally, did they investigate the series of fly-by-night companies through which the firm ran its doorman? The police accuse Raquel's management of leaving their doorman too much to themselves.
The information that I got throughout the investigation was that there was a lack of support, really, for the door staff. And perhaps they weren't as aware of what they should and shouldn't be doing in respect of people attending and getting into the premises.
European Leisure refused us an interview, yet after Leah died, they were quick to appear on local radio.
As a company, we do have a no-drugs policy. We train our door staff to look out for the telltale signs, and if any of our management or security staff see anybody on the premises who might be dealing drugs, then they are detained and the police are called.
However, Essex police confirmed they were never once called by management to investigate drugs in Raquel's during the entire year before Leah Betts died, even though former staff say the drug taking was obvious. European Leisure's supposedly drugs-free new club is equipped with a chill-out area. That suggests they acknowledge that punters may bring drugs into the club or take them beforehand. Several agencies bear responsibility for the drugs problem at Raquel's.
The county of Essex, northeast of London, once the land of open space and opportunity. By the mid-1990s, it had become a war zone.
Gangsters against gangsters. That's how this business works. If you do someone a bad deed, they're going to come back and do you one.
Gang warfare poisoned the dream as organised crime spilled out of London's East End into the fields, beaches, streets and nightclubs of Essex.
We're talking guns, knives or whatever you need to win. There was going to be a war.
It's a story that's now hit the big screen. But in this programme, for the first time, it's told by the men who had their fingers on the triggers.
Just empty the gun into him to go bang, 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 bang.
They reveal how sex, drugs and rock and roll fueled the fight for the new criminal frontier in the new towns of Essex.
Evolution of drugs, evolution of music was always going to overtake us. It was just a flood of villainy with violence.
and how 4 decades of vice and murder culminated in one of the most infamous gangland killings in underworld history.
They were the worst of the worst. Couldn't afford to take chances with them. They had to go.
One winter's night in 1995, 3 gangsters drove down a country lane in the village of Rettendon. They were the notorious Essex boys, and they were falling into a trap. Their reign as one of Britain's most ruthless drug gangs was about to end. Within minutes, all 3 men were gunned down in a violent ambush.
He shot Rolfe behind the ear, he shot Tucker in the side of the face, and then he shot Tate in the liver.
The next morning, Rettendon awoke to a horrific crime scene. And the Essex boys were destined to go down in underworld legend.
Detectives believe the killings have all the hallmarks of a gangland murder.
As the media feasted on the story, it emerged that areas of Essex were in the grip of a violent drugs war, waged by bloodthirsty gangs.
The dirty business of drugs in Essex overtook most counties. If you start dealing with drugs in back alleys, in farm tracks, you're probably not going to drive out of there, and that is what Essex became.
The Essex boys' brutal end epitomised the county's plight as gangster battled gangster and created a living nightmare for police. Danny Woolard is a veteran of the Essex underworld. Since the 60s, he's made a fortune from robberies and now lives on a piece of prime Essex real estate.
Leave off! Wait!
He witnessed brutal drug wars transform the county.
The only people who make a living are drug dealers. I don't like drug dealers, I wouldn't deal with it. I don't trust them for one thing. I wouldn't trust them. And they've not done their apprenticeship. They do a couple of drug deals and they're villains.
Woolard is part of the criminal old school whose violence built gangland Essex. Like many successful criminals, he grew up in London's East End, which in the 1960s was a hotbed of organised crime. Woolard had a reputation for violence, and in the East End, that was a valuable commodity. He was employed by gangsters to force businesses to pay protection money. Amongst those paying for his services were the notorious Craig twins. Ken Tappenden joined the regional crime squad covering London and the surrounding counties and was targeting the Craigs' extortion rackets.
If you didn't pay them to look after you, then they actually damaged you. It's as simple as that. That's how extortion works. They were the people to catch.
In 1969, the police crackdown sent shockwaves through the underworld when the Craigs were jailed for life. For years they'd seemed untouchable, but their very public murder of 2 East End gangsters signalled the end of their empire. With the police on their trail, criminals were facing extinction. To survive, they fled the overcrowded and over-policed East End. They needed a new home, and they knew just where to look.
EastEnders always looked to Essex as a place to get away to. It's always where you wanted to go, a weekend away. So there has always been this thing about getting away to Essex.
60 times the size of the East End, it had everything they could wish for. Miles of unguarded coastline. A new generation of criminals emerged in Essex, ruthless in their determination to follow in the footsteps of the Craigs and become kings of this new underworld.
People like the Blundell family, they actually stepped into their shoes. And I say that they were more dangerous in the way they thought, the way they operated, the way they undertook their criminality than ever the Craigs would have been.
Billy Blundell was one of the most powerful figures in the Essex underworld.
The worst thing you can ever do in a criminal fraternity is be successful.
A policeman's son, Blundell had also grown up in the East End. With his brother Eddie, he got rich selling ice cream, as the capital's swinging image attracted unprecedented numbers of tourists. But the Blundells were men of violence, and any competition were literally beaten off.
I've had more fights on the cobbles than I ever did in the boxing ring. But it was the norm. We didn't think it was, you know, there'd be loads of tourists about, like a bit of fun for them.
By the 1970s, the Blundell's ruthless approach to business had made them a lot of money. Billy Blundell could now afford the Essex life he couldn't get in the East End.
It was my dream to buy a small holding and build a house there and have a lake and stables, and that's what I did. I had my dream come true.
Now that he had a foothold, Blundell was ready to expand his empire. The bloody battle for the Essex underworld was about to begin, and it started in a remote field. In the summer of 1971, the county was in a celebratory mood. 150,000 people flocked to the quiet village of Wheely in North Essex for a pop festival featuring stars like T-Rex and Rod Stewart. The Blundells were running catering and brought their own security. Other traders knew they had to pay them a cut or pay the consequences. But as the event got underway, the brothers realised they weren't the only violent gang in town.
The Hells Angels turned up, about 200 of them on motorbikes and all that, and just pushing the workers off and just helping themselves out dogs and hamburgers, and they were powerless to stop them, you know.
The fearsome Hells Angels were bad for business, and Billy knew they had to be dealt with.
At that time, it was like hippies and all that, you know, and overnight everybody was walking around with these ponchos on, had some ponchos, you know. So we all did the same, but underneath our ponchos we had pickaxe handles and bricks and all sorts of things. And what we was doing, we was going in little crews, coming out the crowds, setting about, giving it to them, then moving on, so they didn't know where it was coming from, you know.
The hard face of hard rock had met their match, and eventually police took the Hells Angels away for their own protection. Billy Blundell was establishing himself in Essex, but he was fighting battles on many fronts, and this got him noticed. Later that year, the violence spilled out onto the streets during a feud with a rival gang.
Milford High Road was quite busy, and all hell broke loose, basically, because I'm firing in the street, people are running for cover, went on and on, you know.
Blundell was arrested and charged with attempted murder. In court, one detective came under attack from an unlikely member of Blundell's family, his mum.
She said, "You bastard," she said, "you're always picking on my boys, all the time." He said, "Mrs. Blundell, I'm not picking on your boys at all. Your son shot 3 people in Milford High Road in front of witnesses." She said, "You bloody liar." She said, "My boys are good boys, I don't do them things. So you can't do no wrong in your mum's eyes, you know."
He did no wrong in the jury's eyes either. They found he'd acted in self-defense. It would be another 11 years and 13 trials before the law finally caught up with Billy Blundell. But while Blundell fought on the streets and fields, on the coast, a new type of crime was emerging. Essex was a gateway to Europe, and at ports such as Tilbury, millions of pounds worth of goods were loaded onto lorries every day. On the open roads, trucks had always been vulnerable to hijackers. Now, enterprising criminals bought farmland in the countryside and rented out barns for hijackers to store their stolen goods. The barns became known as slaughters because of the way the trucks were stripped to the bone.
Lorry loads of whiskey, gin, whatever you wanted to say went off the roads, and that turned out to be the next area of crime. They run it into a slaughter and you wouldn't find it for months.
Gangland Essex was evolving, and in the quiet fields and farmland, criminal networks had started to take root. The pioneers had laid the foundations for a new underworld. And from the start of the 80s, that meant drugs.
With drugs, what you want is a slice of the market. You don't have to live in a particular territory in order to dominate it. So Essex became viable because in Essex you've got the coast, you've got fields, you've got barns. So Essex became an ideal venue for the new market that was typified by drugs.
For the next 20 years, the Essex underworld would tear itself apart in a bloody battle to control the drug trade. Profits were huge, and the marketplace full of ruthless criminals.
Billy Blundell now lives in rural Essex. He's a wealthy man and enjoys pottering around on his farm. Hello, boy.
In 1983, shortly after appearing in a TV documentary, Billy Blundell was arrested on his Essex farm. For for conspiracy to manufacture amphetamines.
The Crown said the drugs were worth nearly £1 million on the black market. They said Blundell was the gang's Mr. Big. The judge described him as an evil man.
To this day, Blundell protests his innocence.
I rented them a house that I owned, which they used. Although I knew what they was doing, I wasn't a part of their conspiracy. They got raided by the police, and the police put me up as the Mr. Big in the background. There you go, Prince Philip would have got found guilty.
At Chelmsford Crown Court, Blundell got 8 years jail for conspiring to run an illicit amphetamine factory.
So that was number 13. I'd had 12 not guilties on the trot over the previous 20 years. I was charged with attempted murder on a couple of occasions that I got out of. But all the things that I got found not guilty was, some of them were a little bit near the mark, so although I got 8 years for something I didn't do, I'm not too bitter because it's sod's law. I'm paying for yesterday.
After the guilty verdict, speculation was rife. Why had Blundell purchased his Essex farm? An associate of the man who'd sold the farm had his own theory.
Mr. Blundell wanted that house because it had a big garden with a lake in it, and he wanted that lake for drug smuggling. In other words, aeroplanes could fly over and drop the drugs.
This claim was never proven and is denied by Blundell. But one thing was clear: the demand for recreational drugs was booming, and for criminals, that meant big business.
Dance for 15 hours with a bottle of pop and still have a happy face unless you scofftees. I guarantee to you. So we knew something was happening.
A pioneer of the new movement was Andrew Pritchard.
The rave scene came about in my very, very late teens, early 20s. A new music had burst on the scene, known as acid house, and you know, you had a great life. And, you know, every 21-year-old wants to do that.
But you couldn't make this kind of profit without the underworld taking notice. And in the 1980s, armed robbers began to realise there were easier ways of making money than holding up banks.
They knew that if they carried on armed robberies, they're going to get banged up, they're going to get shot on the plot.
To avoid police marksmen, robbers looked for a softer target, and raves were easy pickings.
You didn't see a bank robbery all the time you had acid parties. Never. You didn't have to. If they could go to half a dozen parties on a Friday, Saturday night and walk off with a couple of £100,000, as they did, easy money, isn't it?
Pritchard was taking massive amounts of cash, kept not in vaults and safes, but bin liners and sports bags.
Back then we were wide open, basically. We were vulnerable to all sorts of undesirables. So the choice we had to make was to get the right people to protect us and work with those people in order for our parties to succeed.
The raves were illegal. Pritchard couldn't go to the police or legitimate security firms, so instead he looked for people with violent reputations. They weren't hard to find. West Ham United was the traditional football club of the East End. For the displaced Londoners in Essex, Upton Park Stadium was a symbol of their old heritage. It's peaceful nowadays, but in the 1980s, it was under siege. Every weekend, rival firms of football hooligans orchestrated violence on the terraces. With long-term hooligan Carlton Leach at its heart, West Ham's intercity firm, or ICF, were the most notorious. Football violence was nothing new, but the ICF were different. Embodying the spirit of the age, they were upwardly mobile and ambitious. They were once described as Thatcher's eagles.
You want to be the best, don't you? We all want to be. You want to be tops in life, whatever it is.
They were incredibly sharp and entrepreneurial, and they saw this as an opportunity. Rather than whacking other football fans at the weekend for nothing, they thought, well, if we're going to use muscle and we're going to use reputation, we might just as well get paid for it, which is what they did.
The ICF soon evolved from football hooligans to security entrepreneurs, bouncers and doormen. In the decades that followed, some of them would help to bring violence and bloodshed to gangland Essex. But But in 1988, rave organiser Andrew Pritchard simply wanted to protect his profits, and Leach was about to get a piece of the action.
There was a rave thing called Genesis, and did we want to do supply and security for it? £250 a night. What?
Leach already had a part-time job as a doorman, but he'd never seen anything like the raves.
Because we was used to sort of like 100, 200 people in a club. You get quite a lot of trouble when it comes down to drink. And then we're in a warehouse and there's like thousands of people queuing up, people coming in, and it was like just madness.
The architects of the love drug culture were now in bed with men of violence. As far as Tappenden was concerned, Pritchard and his friends were in too deep.
They weren't hard men. They were Jack the Lad. They'd been to Ibiza. They'd stripped down, not worn a shirt for 3 months, liked a bit of money, got with the girls, had a few drugs. They weren't villains, but they were mad to carry on with it, because when the gangsters got into it, you knew then that we were in big trouble.
As profits soared, the ICF tried to take over and began to demand an ever-increasing share of the proceeds.
We started off on wages, and then they decided to give us a cut because it was getting so busy that we got a percentage of the door.
In Leach's view, this wasn't extortion, simply an arrangement that worked for both parties.
To bring us on board as a partner was quite a clever move by Andrew and the boys, because that made us part of it. So you're not going to destroy your own thing, you're not going to ruin your own thing, and you're now part of it. I think we was like quarter partners or something like that, it worked out, so whatever it was. But you're not going to mess up your own thing.
There's a very fine line between security and extortion. It's very, it's a difficult line to draw between actually you pay me for stopping trouble in your club, or if you don't pay me, there will be trouble in your club.
We kind of inadvertently had brought back the protection rackets through the parties. Extortion, in actual fact, and enforcement became a business again.
Tappenden believed that firms like the ICF had also muscled in on the drugs trade at the events.
You're never going to argue with 10 real good bouncers who are good villains, GBH merchants, attempt murder merchants. You're not going to argue with them when they got a Rottweiler dog on the end of a leash.
The rave scene was descending further and further into the underworld. Tappenden now had Pritchard firmly in his sights. If he mixed with gangsters, he had to be taken down.
They got the mad notion one day to set riot squads out for us. Now, when you got a riot squad of aggressive police who turn up in SPG vans with helmets and shields, you can have a big problem in your hands, because not only have you got maybe 12 or 15 strong doormen who are going to be your first port of entry who are going to try to stop you, you've got 4,000 or 5,000 people behind now who are also going to be extremely pissed off.
In 3 violent months, the Pay Party unit made 265 arrests and recovered chilling proof that gangsters had infected the rave scene. To avoid the heat, Pritchard slipped quietly out of the country, but the Essex underworld had not seen the last of him. Ken Tappenden retired from the police force in 1993. The war on drugs had been his last stand. He always felt it was a losing battle.
You never win. Why on earth I turned out 600 policemen some nights, I don't know. Evolution of villainy, evolution of drugs, evolution of music was always going to overtake us. All we did for a while was put the sandbags across the door, and when you took that off, it was just a flood of villainy with violence.
In the 1990s, the underground rave scene exploded onto the mainstream stage. While the government introduced new laws to tackle the warehouse parties, giving police the upper hand, new licensing laws meant Essex nightclubs could stay open late. Keen to cash in on the music's popularity, clubs began to stage legal rave nights of their own. But with raves came drugs, and with the drugs came a bloody gang war. The battlefield would be Basildon, the new town that 50 years earlier had embodied optimism and a bright future. It was this town that gave birth to a gang destined to go down in underworld legend as the infamous Essex Boys. Their leader was Tony Tucker, a security entrepreneur who, like Carlton Leach and the ICF before him, controlled the drugs trade as gatekeeper to the ecstasy-fueled raves. The dealers were getting rich and paid Tony Tucker handsomely for protection within the club. Tucker had quickly become a powerful player and believed he could control the new Essex rave scene. With his newfound wealth and status, he bought expensive property in rural Essex and rubbed shoulders with celebrities. He was personal-minded to middleweight boxing champion Nigel Benn. The other two members of the Essex Boys were brutal henchman Craig Rolfe and ambitious villain Pat Tate, a giant with a big personality and a huge ambition.
He was awesome, a big man, 6'4", good-looking man. He had loads of character, charisma. You know, you could just had everything that anyone wanted. You know what I mean?
But entrepreneur Tate always wanted more. The Essex drugs market was huge. Ecstasy use was more widespread than ever. But criminals were turning over fortunes from drugs of every description. Cocaine, heroin, and cannabis were rife.
Drugs started to take over from every other form of making money with villainy, in a big way.
Tate saw an opportunity for aggressive expansion. The gang began moving in on other drug businesses. They wanted a larger share of the market and were prepared to use force to take it.
The realm of just taking a pill and going out and dancing, or you know, the rave, it was going every hardcore drugs. You know what I mean? And they were different people. They were strangers.
Crazed by drug use and a thirst to expand their business, the gang were ruthless to their enemies and associates alike.
People messed up. The way Tony and Pat were, is they had to be punished.
Now free after serving his time for the amphetamine conviction, Billy Blundell was not impressed.
Injecting people up and throwing them in ditches to die and things like that, which they did, you know, so they were the worst of the worst. So, you know, you couldn't afford to take chances with them. They had to go.
The Essex Boys were making enemies in high places, but one victim would fight back. Pat Tate had begun using heavy drugs, and when his close friend Steve Nipper Ellis confronted him about it, it provoked a bitter feud.
We had this massive argument, and I just remember saying, Pat, you're nothing but a junkie, you're nothing more a junkie. And he's gone, Nipper, I control the drugs don't control me. I mean, you're a junkie, you're nothing more than a junkie.
But what Nipper Ellis didn't realise was that in their drug-addled state, Tate and Tucker were looking for any excuse to turn on him.
When they used to come in the club, I could sort of see that there was ill feeling from Tucker towards Nipper.
When Ellis made an offhand remark about Tony Tucker's girlfriend, they had their excuse. Tucker and his henchman Craig Rolfe turned the torture treatment on Ellis.
So I'm doing the hoovering in the hall, front door's opened, in walked Tony, he's grabbed me by the throat, and he sort of lifted me up, pushed me down onto the bed, and he sat across me, and he pulled out a meat cleaver. And I'm looking at him, and he's going, your hand or your foot? And I was just thinking, if you cut my foot off, I won't be able to chase you. If you cut my hand off, I can still shoot you. And I'm left-handed, so I held out my right hand, and I just sat there, closed my eyes, thought I'm going to scream, I'm going to cry, it's going to hurt, I'm going to kill you.
Tucker allowed Nipper to keep his hand, but he left the flat with many of his belongings, while Rolfe wiped excrement over the walls. High on drugs, the gang had become monsters. In the days that followed, the gang decided they had let Ellis off lightly. Tucker and Tate told friends they now planned to torture and kill him. But when the gang threatened his family, Ellis decided to strike first. He went to Pat Tate's Basildon home to murder his former friend.
Come up into his back garden, I had the handgun, and I just thought, I'm going to shoot him, simple as that, I'm going to shoot him. Picked a rock up, threw the rock through the frosted glass. As the glass broke, there was Pat, and he's having a shave, and he's looking like that. What had happened is the gun hadn't fired properly, it had gone click, click, bang, and the third bullet hit him in the arm. All I could hear was screaming, and Pat was on the phone going, please, please, I've been shot, I've been shot.
Ellis escaped, and Tate was taken to hospital. But the Essex Boys had been attacked, and wouldn't take it lying down. They drew up a plan to lure Nipper Ellis to the hospital, promising a truce. Tate hid a weapon in the bed sheets, and waited for Ellis to arrive.
But fortunately for Nipper, and unfortunately for Tate, fortunately for everyone else, a nurse making up Tate his bed found the gun, called the police, and he was recalled to prison.
Pat Tate had been on parole for a robbery, but possessing a firearm breached his conditions and he was sent back to jail for 18 months. Tate refused to give evidence against Ellis, but the gang had threatened his family, and Ellis's war with the Essex boys was only just beginning.
I had to kill them. That was all I knew. I just lived to kill them.
While in jail, Pat Tate was filmed for a news item about the prison gym. But while playing the model prisoner, he was busy planning his drugs empire. Tate decided that away from the raves, the Essex boys could be making much more money with much less risk. Tate wanted to move up the underworld ladder and into importing drugs. With the longest coastline of any county and major ports like Tilbury to exploit, it was possible to make a lot of money from smuggling drugs in Essex. Pat Tate set his sights on going global. Today Basildon, tomorrow the world. On Halloween night 1995, he was released from prison. The gang began importing drugs from the continent. But on November the 11th, 1995, came the event that would mark the beginning of the end. A teenager called Leah Betts fell into a coma after taking a single ecstasy pill. The tablet had been bought at Raquel's, putting the club firmly under the national media spotlight. The mainstream drug scene now had a high-profile victim, and the press were demanding answers. What happened behind the doors of Raquel's was now a matter of nationwide public interest. The party was over. Police were now all over the club, warning customers about drugs and determined to discover how an 18-year-old girl had been supplied with ecstasy. Unable to do business, they pressurized and threatened their underworld partners for money. Raquel's regular drug dealer owed the Essex boys money, but with police all over the club, he couldn't work and he couldn't pay his debt. When the Essex boys threatened him and his family, he turned to the one man in Essex he knew could help him.
I said to him, yeah, it can be sorted out. I said, I'll make a phone call now and get it sorted out for you. I made a phone call and a guy turned up on a motorbike with a crash helmet with a 9mm gun.
Blundell provided the terrified dealer with the gun, the chaperone and some simple advice.
When they turn up, shoot one of them straight in the cobblers. You ain't gonna kill them, just shoot them straight in the cobblers, or even both of them.
The dealer declined this helpful offer. Instead, Blundell called the Essex boys to a meeting. Only Tate turned up, and Blundell took the chance to warn him that his association with Tucker was dangerous.
He didn't seem to care much, and I said to him, you know, it's all right him keep blanking and all that, but what happens if someone creeps up behind him and goes bang in the back of the head? If you're with him, you're going to get it as well. You know what I mean? I said, well, if it happens, it happens. 3 days later, it happened.
They were found in this Range Rover. All 3 men were shot through the head at point-blank range. Detectives believe the killings have all the hallmarks of a gangland murder.
You have 26 messages.
Charlie's Colton, can you give us a ring? Cheers, mate.
Tom, can you ring us back if he's dead? We're worried. Will you ring us straight back as soon as you can? Hi, it's Annie Mae. Can you just give us a ring, please? Let us know you're alright. Because at the moment I think you're dead.
On the night of December the 6th, 1995, the gang were lured to this remote country lane, where they were ambushed by 2 mystery gunmen. The gunman and the getaway driver escaped, and for 6 months, their identities remained a mystery. So who shot the Essex boys? They'd made many enemies. Danny Woolard had crossed swords with the gang in the past. Was he the Rettendon assassin?
I was there that night. There's nothing to do with me. I was in the burnt mill service station going to nick a lorry.
The tiny village was busy that night. Nipper Ellis was also in town. He'd tried before to kill them. Was he there to finish the job?
Me and somebody else, we were trying to thieve a container with some stuff in it. So I was up near Rettendon. Unfortunately, I didn't hear the shots. I'd like to say I was there, but I was up near Rettendon.
Convinced the police would come for him too, Billy Blundell decided to take a holiday.
The newspapers were full of it about, so...
It wasn't them. They were innocent men, mate. They were innocent, believe me.
I know who was there that night, and I know they weren't there.
Veterans of the Essex underworld know to stay silent, but they also hope that with the gang gone, Essex could look forward to a brighter future. 15 years on from the fall of the Essex boys, Billy Blundell believes the county is worse than ever. He's retired from crime and now runs a boxing gym, hoping to keep kids off the streets. When he thinks things are bad, you know you're in trouble.
A lot of these young kids run around with guns. We really shouldn't have a bow and arrow in their hands, let alone anything else, you know.
And as for Essex, the land of opportunity, it continues to be plagued by drugs. In 2004, £100 million worth of cocaine was smuggled through Tilbury Dock. Though he spent 18 months on remand, for an entrepreneur like Pritchard, everything is an opportunity. He has written a book, and a film about his career is underway. The entrepreneurial spirit that built Essex is building the legend of the Essex underworld. The Essex boys have entered criminal folklore, but one man wishes he'd killed the men before their legend was born.
Yeah, I do wish I killed them, and that is something I will probably take to my grave, the fact that I didn't kill them, and the fact that I can't stand here and say, yeah, I did kill them, and I killed them slowly, and I tortured to pieces of shit. They got off light for what they done to other families. I hope I meet up with them in hell.
When you get in, please. Bye. Hi, Tate, it's only Meg. Can you give us a ring when you get back, or when you read your messages? Bye.
Tony, it's Colton. Can you give us a ring at Lynn's? Cheers, mate.
Tom, can you ring us back if he's dead?
What's the also saying?
We're worried. Will you ring us straight back as soon as you can?
Tony, it's Jane and Ronnie here. Can you give us a call, please? 01303 245977 as soon as possible.
Oh, Tony, it's Pete. Your mum's been after your house telephone number. Can you ring her and let her what it is? See you later.
Hello, Tone. Could you ring me? It's Bill.
For God's sake, Tone, phone me. Speak to you later. Bye.
Hello, Tone. Give us a ring, mate. It's Mickey. Hello, Tone. Give us a ring, mate. Mickey.
Hi, anyway, Tone, when you listen to messages, could you ring me, please? 4116 at the moment. I'll speak to you later. Bye. Hi, it's only me. Time's nearly 2:05, still haven't heard from you. Can you just give us a ring, please, let us know you're alright? Because at the moment I think you're dead. You just said on the telly that there's 3 men in Rave over. I think it's you. Bye.
Hello, Tone. Jen, can you give us a ring, please?
Hi, only me. Time's now 1:45, I still haven't heard from you. Can you just give me a ring, please? For Mum to let me know that you're alright. Alright, speak to you later, bye. Hi, only me. Time's now 11:15. I've just got home from stables. I was going to say, just thought I'd give you a ring because I haven't heard from you. You're either alright or you're not. We don't know really. She phones off. Alright then, so I'll try and catch up with you later on. Bye.
Yeah, can you ring Bernie, please? Tony, hi, it's Portugal here. It's 9 o'clock. Can you delay the pickup of your equipment until about, say, about 12 o'clock today? Because we're going to be working on it until then. It's going to be a couple of hours. I'll speak to you later. I'm at work. 515-6644. Cheerio.
Hi babe, it's Maggie. The ring will get a minute. Bye.
Hi, Tony, it's Mary. Just to let you know, Chris is home, so if you're going to ring up, bother about Willowbrook, he's at home with me. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye, Chris. Ring and let me know how you're getting on. I'm all ready now. Bye. Hi, babe and mate. Can you give me a ring round the flat what I used to be in? Number 557679. Yes, ring straight away, yeah? Right, speak to you in a minute. If not, come round my other flat. I'm around Drive at the moment, but come round the flat. I'll be here for the next about 15 minutes. Right then, speak to you in a minute. Bye. Hello? Hello? Put the fucking phone down, Joe. Hello? Hello?
You have no more messages.
Providing doormen to clubs in and around Essex, including the infamous Raquel's in Basildon.
In Raquel's, it was like everyone was on the drugs. Doorman was selling drugs. I'm not saying what doorman, but the doorman was selling drugs. And half the time it was Tony's gear they were selling.
Well, the business they were in pills, in ecstasy pills, that they would distribute to clubs.
Within the clubs, dealers controlled the sale of drugs, but the doormen controlled the dealers. Tony Tucker took a cut from every deal.
You've got to put your people in, and their job is to stop anyone else dealing in the club, and then split the profits, or give them a percentage of the profits, a third, whatever.
Tucker was good at getting other people to do his bidding.
He was manipulative, and he fooled probably a lot of people into thinking that he was a good friend to them, whereas basically he was a user. That's all he was a user and a bully.
To help run his empire, Tucker had an enforcer, Craig Rolfe, whose life started badly and then went downhill. He was born in Holloway Prison to a mother who was serving a long sentence in connection with the murder of Rolfe's father.
The impression I had of Rolfe was that he was a very obliging sort of guy and would do anything. He was a sort of golfer, you know, and he liked to be on the fringes of things. He wasn't really a villain.
Rolfe was also an increasingly enthusiastic user, especially of steroids and cocaine.
Many people take cocaine and they enjoy taking it. It gives them a bit of energy, makes them feel lively and happy. Unfortunately, when aggressive people take cocaine, it makes aggressive people more aggressive.
Even more feared as an enforcer in the organisation was Pat Tate, a man who, during one of his frequent stays in prison, met Tucker on one of his rare stretches inside.
Pat Tate was a 20-stone steroid monster. He's actually a nice-looking guy, Pat was.
Tate and Tucker were both heavy users of steroids. Tate's behaviour was unpredictable at best, psychotic at worst.
Steroids tend to make people more irritable, more aggressive, more combative, and if you already have a personality that is volatile and aggressive and dominant, then it's likely to make that person more aggressive and dominant. Someone taking large amounts of steroids, large amounts of cocaine, that's going to result in all manner of difficulties.
Tate and Tucker definitely had difficulties over their business methods when buying and selling drugs. There was certainly no honour among these thieves.
Their speciality was robbing people. They would make a meet with some people who were selling, say, cocaine. They'd meet them at the motorway services and get them to meet one side of the service while they were the other side of the service. They'd cross over and say they were going to leave someone there while they went across and checked the commodity. Well, when they got to the other side, they'd just take off.
Pat Tate's fearsome bulk might be helpful when it came to robbing drug dealers of their wares, but his erratic behaviour was now turning him into a liability.
Pat Tate was basically a bodybuilder, got all on steroids and basically a bully. He went in a pizza house, smacked the bloke around because he was a fool.
The pizza manager received this treatment just for speaking without respect to Tate on the telephone when he placed a pizza order for something not on the menu.
You just had to be careful what you said, because it don't matter who you was, they would have a go.
Even old friendships couldn't save someone if they got on the wrong side of the Tucker-Tate combo, as Steve "Nipper" Ellis discovered when he made the mistake of discussing Tucker's whereabouts with one girlfriend to another.
Tony's walked in, and then I was hoovering, doing my cleaning up, doing my housework, and Tony said, so I stopped the hoover. Tony said to me, "Where's the thing?" Which he meant the .22 revolver. So I got the .22 revolver out from under the stairs where it was hidden, give it to him, said it's clean and it's loaded. I've checked it. With that, he's got the gun in his right hand. He's pushed me back against the wall and started banging the gun in my head. And I just thought I'm dead. And so I kept thinking I'm dead because I knew it was loaded.
Having made his escape from the gun-toting Tucker, Ellis later decided to exact revenge.
Last time I see Pat was just after I'd shot him and he was in the kitchen window when I tried to shoot him then and he ran down the hall. Last time I see Tony was after I tried to shoot him, and as I was driving out of town trying to find their car's come out of onto a T-junction, and I see them, they see me, but I'd driven past them, and then they were staying behind me, and each time I was going to get out of the car and run back and shoot them, they were reversing on a main road, so that was the last time I see him.
Bleeding from his gunshot wound, a hospitalised Tate then tried to lure Ellis to his bedside, where he had hidden a gun.
Apparently he went down for an operation or something, and the nurse was changing his bed, and she found the gun under the bed, and Pat got nicked for having the gun, and he ended up going back in prison on breach of his parole. There was me, like a lunatic, running around with a shotgun.
With violence becoming an increasingly common part of their armoury, Tony Tucker's firm was about to enter choppy waters. But for now, the importing of their drugs seemed to be plain sailing.
Obviously, the drugs was coming across the channel in a rib, you know, a semi-rigid inflatable. And obviously Essex is an easy route across. So someone could make a serious lot of money by taking that across.
While in jail, Tate had met someone who could help the Essex boys make serious money. That someone was Michael Steele, a sailor with his own boat, who was already in the illegal drugs importation game.
Michael Steele was not a gang member. He was a professional drug dealer. A very intelligent man, a very, very well-qualified engineer, charming at times and ruthless at other times. He was an organiser and a leader.
Steele was also a pilot and often flew the drugs into improvised landing strips and former World War II air bases across Essex, Norfolk and Kent.
Mick Steele wasn't fancy cars or Porsches or Jaguars or anything like that. He had his own truck where he'd done his own engineering work. You know, he wasn't, you know, the big drug baron. That wasn't Mickey Steele.
Steele was the architect of the smuggling operations and worked with Jack Womes, who looked after storage and distribution of the drugs once in Essex.
Jack Womes, a large-built man, he was a steadfast rock for Steele. He was his lieutenant who did as he was told and supported Michael Steele in dishonest activities.
Him and Jack got on well because they was both engineers. They were always talking engines and, you know, which didn't interest me.
The final member of the Essex boys was Darren Nichols. He too had met Steele, Womes and Tate at Hollesley Bay Jail.
Darren Nichols, a married man with children, as far as my memory serves me, a couple of daughters, held a regular job down, then got involved in some dishonest behaviour, and as a result of that, met up with Michael Steele.
Steele and Womes brought in and distributed some of the drugs sold in the Essex clubs, where the doors were controlled by Tucker and his bouncers. In the second half of 1995, Tucker increasingly supplemented his sales of cannabis with the clubbers' favourite, ecstasy. To keep up with demand, he found himself a new supplier who sold him ecstasy pills known as apples. These are extra potent and could pose a very real danger for the less sophisticated Essex clubber.
Apple ecstasy has a reputation of being a particularly strong form of ecstasy. But one of the problems with buying an ecstasy pill is that there are so many different ones around and they change almost every week and you don't really know what's in them. And there are variations in the strength that they contain, so there's no great quality control.
Meanwhile, Tucker's doorman ensured only their dealers were allowed to supply drugs in the clubs where they supplied the doorman.
If anyone else went into a nightclub and started selling their own particular drugs, the doorman would stop them. They'd take their drugs off of them, give them a clump and chuck them out.
In 1995, it seemed that the only way in Essex to conduct nefarious business was to pay one's dues to the so-called Essex boys. But was their reign of terror about to be challenged? And where would it lead?
One time I made a meeting with Tate because Tucker wouldn't come to the meeting. So he sent Tate. That's when I did say to him, the way you're going, you know what's going to happen. Someone's going to creep up behind you and go bump in the back of the head. I was going to do that to Tucker, and when you're with him, same's going to happen to you. And that's when he looked me in the eye and said, well, if it happens, it happens. 3 days later, it happened.
The field in which the plane will be landing the following day is just at the end of the lane.
Craig was driving, Tony was next to him in the passenger seat, Pat was in the back with somebody. They drove down the Rettendon Turnpike. They was looking for what Tony, Pat and Craig believed was another easy job, to mug some dealers, take a load of stuff.
The entrance is being barred by a securely locked gate.
Pat's seen the pump action, gone like that. Bang, Craig, bang. Tony, Craig. Tony and Craig didn't know a thing. You think of a loud bang in that confined space, you're going to you wouldn't even know, they didn't even know what happened. They were dead before they even heard the second sound of the gun.
The people were waiting where they thought they were going to have the switch over. Instead of getting a commodity, they got killed. Because obviously the people whose toes they were treading on were heavy people.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time when me and Free got killed. Just a matter of time, because I was catching everybody, having everybody over, just chucking away about in general where they could.
Well, what's got them killed was obviously greed. They'd been doing this, they'd been tucking people up, and that was the carrot that was put on the front of the donkey's nose. It was a big one, and they threw caution to the wind and just went for it, which the people obviously knew that they would.
They might indeed have been tempted by the carrot of £1 million drop. Shared with their old enemies and supposedly current cronies, the East London gang, and then paid for their greed with their lives. But what really happened that fateful December night in 1995?
My brother Jack, of the morning of the murders, Darren Nichols, the supergrass, rang Jack up and said, my car's broken down on the way to work. And he said, would you pick it up, Jack? And Jack said, no, Darren, I'm working on the docks. And which he was. He said, I'll pick it up later.
Darren, where are you, buddy?
Just before 7 p.m. on the evening of the murders, the records show 2 4-second calls were made by Wombs to Nichols. The prosecution alleged that they were made by Wombs to summon the getaway vehicle after the murder. But were they?
After Jack had finished work, he goes and gets Darren's car and rings Darren up and says, "Darren, I've got your car. I'll take it back to the workshop." And Darren said, "Fine." And that's what Jack done, brought the car back to the workshop. That's where they say that Jack rang Darren to say, "I've just shot him, come and get me."
Neither side could conclusively prove what was said, but it gave the prosecution a corroborating factor in placing the men in conversation at the time.
It was essential evidence because it corroborated a lot of the evidence that Darren Nichols would give and was proved to be correct, and it also had him, Nichols, in touch with Steele and Wombs prior to and at the time of the murders being committed.
They'd done a lot of drug deals, and they not only when they'd done drug deals, they'd actually gone to the drug deals, taken drugs, taken the money what they've gone there to buy the drugs with, and left.
However, Tucker didn't always check the provenance of the dealers he had robbed and beaten. Some were well connected with rival outfits based in London's East End and Tilbury Docks, so there was a history of bad blood.
Tate Tucker Rolfe was shot with the most precision you could ever see. You know, it wasn't... It was a marksman that shot those 3 guys.
The bloody execution of 3 of the Essex Boys gang led to a massive police investigation. This threw a spotlight on the Essex underworld and on the police to make arrests.
If 3 people get executed in what is obviously a gang killing, and it's in the context of a drug scene out there in Essex, which was widely known about to be pretty bad and pretty out of control, you can take it as read that very, very senior people in the Home Office and the police forces, quite possibly outside Essex, will make phone calls and say, "I don't know what's going on down there, but will somebody please sort this out?"
I think the police knew right from the start that they'd been killed by people who knew them well, so they were already looking at a limited number of people in that particular underworld.
Essex police had encouraged Darren Nichols to become a supergrass, and he, in turn, had identified Michael Steele and Jack Wombs as the 2 murderers. But without any corroborating evidence, it took nearly 2 years to bring the case to trial. There were no forensics, no footprints, no DNA, nothing to connect Steele and Wombs directly to the murders. The barrister who subsequently acted for Michael Steele in his attempts to get the case appealed finds this strange.
The allegation was that the killers of the 3 men in the vehicle had crossed a field which was covered in snow, that around the car there would have been footprints, that there were sweetie papers in the back of a car in which it was claimed that my client had travelled, and yet there was no DNA found.
On the floor, there was a crisp packet and a topic wrapper. Now, if there was no DNA at the scene, how did someone eat all them crisps? So there was DNA there.
There was not a scintilla of DNA evidence. All of it is absurd. I mean, it really is strange that there was no science. No science.
But was it that odd?
When the police arrived at the scene where the Range Rover was with the 3 bodies inside, it had been snowing, but a thaw had set in. So had there been any evidence within the snow, it could have evaporated away, as it were. Who is to say that the 2 witnesses who found the bodies, when they arrived, and they clearly had to go to the Range Rover, they looked around, so their footprints could in fact have damaged possibly some evidence that may have been there.
But some things were undisputedly a bit odd that fateful night.
Tate Tucker Rolfe went down that lane unarmed. They was villains known to have weapons around them. But why would they go down that lane if they was going to a drug deal or a temporary drug deal or even to a double cross, what they say? Why did they not go with guns? There was no guns at the scene.
Failing any forensics, the key evidence was the word of Darren Nichols.
Nichols, who claims to have been the driver for Worms and Steele on the night of the events, was later caught transporting a large amount of cannabis in the boot of his car. It seems that the police took a lenient view of this and offered other perks.
Without any forensic evidence, Nichols' evidence was crucial for the prosecution.
This was a case which was quite unusual in that the absolute core of the evidence against the men in the dog was the evidence of an informer, the evidence of somebody who had himself been a criminal, who was himself somebody who had been involved in serious crime. He basically did a deal that he would give evidence against others in order to save his own skin.
Obviously he didn't do it for nothing. He was the sort of man probably that would do anything rather than go in prison.
He knew that he was also in the frame, quite possibly, as somebody who was party to murder, multiple murders. That was the great threat that hung over him.
People I aimed to stitch up because I thought they was going to kill me. I stitched them up. I put them away. I'm Charlie with Tate as a supergrasses in a minute. Out of all the ones in the system, I'm the tops. I'm considered to be a major witness, and the police really do feel that everybody wants me dead. On the night of the murder, I presumed I was just a driver for a drug deal. I was driving Jack to the lane where Mick would turn up with the others in a Range Rover. And when they completed their deal, I picked a pair of them up. When I was phoned up to come back and pick them up, I just drove into the lane, turned the car around, faced it back towards the road. Jack got in the car and sat in the back. And then all of a sudden, the door opened, Mick got in, the interior light came on, and I was talking to Jack. And at that moment, I noticed Jack had white gloves on, covered with blood. And Mick said, "Come on, get going." I started to pull away, and Mick started passing, like, the barrels of the gun over to Jack. And I was thinking, fucking hell, what's going on here? Mick said, "They won't fuck with us again." And I realised that something had happened. Obviously, I think I knew that someone had been killed. I don't really remember a lot about the journey. The journey, as far as I'm concerned, passed in 2 seconds, you know? It was probably half an hour, but it passed in 2 seconds. Don't really recall a lot of it. I just couldn't comprehend what had been done. Apparently their faces were just hanging off their heads. Just tried to forget it. Just went into the pub, drank a severe amount of drink, went home, went to bed, got up, went to work, and I suppose I was trying to forget about it. But there was no way. The trial, I tried not to look at Worms and Steele. They scared me. You know, because what I'm doing to them. And I know how much they hate me. I don't think I'll ever be rid of them. Mick Steele, because he's quite old, and hopefully he'll die in prison. And Jack, hopefully, when he gets out, he'll be older and wiser and just gets on with his life, rather than trying to avenge me. Probably his family I'm more worried about than him. If they go to another appeal and the appeal gets squashed, I'm particularly worried about the Worms family. No one likes the truth, especially the families of the people that did it. So it's something they've got to come to terms with, not me. When I got out of prison, I didn't expect to hear from anyone again. And when I did hear, it was Mick Steele. Someone he wanted to smuggle with him was locked up. And I think he needed someone else, and he asked me. The bloke was absolutely brilliant. I mean, everything he did. I mean, like an engineer. He was a brilliant engineer. I mean, I couldn't understand really why he broke the law. And when I first agreed to smuggle, I didn't give it a second thought whatsoever. I just did it, because he asked me to. I mean, I know all along, Jack, if he was up for anything, Jack would have been his second man, because him and Jack were like dead pally. Jack loved me. Jack would do anything for me. Jack really admired him, you know, looked up to him. Me and Mick Steele started smuggling cannabis across the channel. We get the ferry, we go across overnight, We get there in the morning. We buy the drugs, we do the deal. I'd go off and rent a car, bring the car back, drugs were put in the boot. I'd drive us all the way back to Blankenberg in Belgium. We wait for sort of dusk, just like early evening, 5 or 6 o'clock time, and we get the drugs down on the beach. We contact Mick, who's come over in a boat. The drugs go in the boat, the drugs go off to England. When Mick got back to England, Jack Womes would be waiting for him. He would take the drugs off him and go and hide the drugs. Mick would go back to sea, re-land somewhere else, been fishing, prove otherwise. Inside, Pat supplied cannabis to people who wanted it, and steroids. He used to get it brought in on visits, sneaked in. I mean, people never really searched Pat. He was too big. Tucker, Tate and Rolfe. Well, more Tucker and Tate. Rolfe was just sort of, I suppose, the equivalent of me with Steele. He was just their boy. Everyone knew them as violent, and when they were selling drugs, they were too loud, too high profile, and they didn't care. If anyone, made any comments, they used to just beat them up. And that concerned, Mick Steele, who I worked for, because they were attracting too much of attention. And it was only a matter of time before they, attracted the attention onto us and got us nicked. When we went smuggling for the third time, everything went wrong from the start. Pat Tate had borrowed 40,000 off some gangsters and promised them 50,000 back. Once Pat didn't get any profit because the drugs were bad, he needed something to tell the gangsters. He devised a little story where he said, "We haven't got any money back. Mick Steele, the bastard, hasn't paid us," he said. And furthermore, he said, "If he doesn't pay us, I'll kneel him down and shoot him in front of you." But Tate, with a big mouth, told too many people, and it got back to Mick. I knew that's when Mick decided to set him up and kill him. I decided that I wouldn't smuggle anymore after the murders, and I told Mick Steele I no longer wanted to smuggle, but I was quite happy to purchase drugs just for my friends and that, you know, and never had nothing to do with smuggling, because I don't know if it was my own personal fears, and they realised I'm a weakling, but they got more friendly towards me, wanting to do things with me, wanting to go flying. Mick offered to take me flying and was egging me on to come flying. And he was betting me that I couldn't identify my town for where I lived from an aeroplane and things like that. And I said, of course I could. And then when he turned up for me to go flying, he had Jack with him. And he says, right, Jack can sit in the back. And I thought, there's no fucking way I'm going up in an aeroplane with those two. If I hadn't grasped, without a doubt, I would be dead. If I had kept my mouth shut, gone into the prison system, I would have died in prison. It's not that I think I would have died. I would have died. I would not be here now. I would be dead. They would have found some 18-year-old who wanted to earn half ounce of dope, who would have stabbed me in the showers, mate. I've been in prison. I've been on remand. You upset someone, you may only end up with 50 stitches. You may end up a bit worse off than that. They're always at it, and the worst ones of all is someone who thinks you're a grass. They'll catch you. They all have a go. They all want to stick the knife in together. A lot of the reason why I became the witness was because of my wife. It just dawned on me that I didn't really want to be away from her, 10 years or whatever I was going to get. It took having to be locked up in a cell again for me to think that. So many different things went through my mind. It was the most difficult decision I think I ever made, was deciding to be the witness. I was locked in an high security unit in Bedford at the time, but they shut it down and they turned it into a unit for Mara Hindley, and I got moved to the Isle of Wight, the old RIA unit, so I couldn't do anything. My wife's having breakdowns on the phone, and all I can do was sit there, and it got to the point where she said, "If you don't come home in a week's time, I'm leaving you, and I'm going back to Essex." They take your national insurance number away, they get rid of your driving licence, all your bank details are erased, they just vanish you. And if I tell you my name's Fred Bloggs, you believe me. You don't say, "Well, let me see your driving licence, Fred." I mean, I've got no documentation to say I'm someone different. I mean, I'm only acting as someone new. I'm not actually someone new until I'm sentenced. After my sentence, I should get, I suppose, an identity. I should get a driving licence, a passport, a national insurance number, help to open a bank account, because even as a fresh person with all of these things, you won't get a bank account because you've got no history, no previousness. I've heard that I'm living in Spain in a villa and I'm being looked after by the police. I've heard other ones. I'm now in South Africa and I've got a bit of a suntan. And they think, I'm definitely abroad. No one knows actually, do they? I mean, all they would do is speculate. The reality is nothing like that at all. They never give you a villa abroad or help you move. I mean, plus the fact is that most countries won't take you in because you are a criminal. Everything's a constant lie. You know it is. It's like I haven't got a job, you know? And I've been offered a few silly jobs, but I can't take them. I mean, you get the basic dole money, in my case, which is about £48 a week, and they find you somewhere to live, which they rent, and then you're expected to get on with your life. You can meet someone, how can you tell them? Oh yeah, by the way, I'm a supergrass. I mean, most people are supposed to hate people like me. How can I tell if they like me or hate me? There's a bounty on my head. I'm not sure how much it is. Someone says it's $250,000, someone says it's $500,000. But who's going to collect it? I mean, if someone topped me, where are they going to go to collect it? I wouldn't want to be the bloke knocking on someone's door. They say, oh yeah, it's up here by the railway lines. Come with me. I'm worried inside. It hurts me. I'm worried. I just can't say how I feel, I suppose. I mean, I even thought to myself, wouldn't it have been easier if I just topped myself and then nothing would have happened? Everyone would have carried on and I'd have been forgotten about in a fortnight. That would have cheered up too many people and I thought, fuck them. The police told me to come prepared, to bring a bag, on the assumption that I might be going away. And they also said to me, they've booked you a space in the Isle of Wight, in the supergrass unit, which was very nice of them. That reassures me I'm not going away. It's quite a serious event from their point of view to get me to court alive, because the police feel they have told me, actually told me, they feel this is the time to get me. Try not to think about it, really. If you think about it, you just start worrying about it, wouldn't you? So I try not to. I put it out of my mind until the day. Always very nervous, you know, upset stomachs and things. So I try not to think about it. I feel sorry for my wife more than anything. If I get to go down, well, then she gets to be lonely. I mean, she's had a lot of doubts in me herself, and it's took a lot of effort for me to convince her that it's rubbish, and you know I told the truth. I mean, it's pretty hard for me, because even my wife doubts me. Fucking brilliant, yes, 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 fucking brilliant moment, wasn't it? A big sigh of relief, and I just thought, excellent, there's no more. They've got no more hold over me, you know? And that moment was great. The funny thing is, this great moment happened in my life, and when I got home, I couldn't tell anyone. Couldn't even go and have a drink. And be happy, sort of just, you know. No one knew it, apart from me. I just sort of had to wander around normally. I actually sat down once, and I was a bit gutted to the fact that I'd fucked up a couple of families' lives. Like Jack Holmes' family. He's got children and all that. I have pangs of conscience about it, you know. I often thought to myself, what would happen if I just said I lied and got them off? Nothing anyone could do. They'd just be let off and be compensated. And I actually thought that. I never do it, but I actually had it in my mind to think I could do that, you know? I could get them out of this trouble. Would they like me again? I mean, Mick and Jack getting off can play on your mind. It plays on my mind. Because if they got off on an appeal, in the long term, I think they would have to find me. Because they wouldn't be happy until they kill me. Even if you don't think you're thinking about it, you know you are. I don't know how the appeal will go. I mean, assuming the fact that they're guilty. Obviously, I'd hope severely that it went the way I want it to go, and they don't get off. If I'm a big liar, I concocted the perfect story. I knew where 2 of my friends were on the night of the murder, and I think everyone should just look at the fact that 12 people consider me to be telling the truth, and they heard all of the evidence, and other people haven't heard all of the evidence. Not even I have heard all of the evidence. So it bugs me to think that people think I'm a big liar. I don't need an imagination to guess what people think of me. You get the criminal side who think you're the biggest thing since sliced bread in the grass department, and on the other side of things, the police, you know you're the biggest witness they've ever had. I don't get drunk and think, oh right, what a good pub story. Look, I grassed all my mates up. I don't think that's something you can be proud of or boast about. I've made myself more famous than the bloke who grassed the craze up. I can live without that fame.
Right, so you've come out of prison and you're still frightened because of the threats that are coming in through prison.
They swore they're going to take my arms and legs up when they get hold of me.
Right.
And my dad had sworn if they left me in a wheelchair...
What did you get done to them? Make them like this?
It was basically, I didn't want nothing to do with them because of their The main thing that really blew it was that phone call from Donna.
Yeah.
I said Tony by now.
Yeah.
So when they come round to me, what I should have done, I mean Tony used to all the time go around and rob people, right? Stick tools in the head, in the belly, whatever. What I should have done, which was, I admit I'm not the full ticket, I can't be, because the way of the life I've led and the things I do, right? I should have maybe just sat down and said, oh dear, I've been robbed, and just get on with my life. I wouldn't sit down and get robbed, I wouldn't take it, and I retaliated. I went out, I purchased a gun, and I went out on my way to try and kill them. But I never did, I got nicked. And now, someone else must have been some force there to have, not even if Craig weren't there, to have Pat and Tony sit there, take a bullet in the back of their head, or a shotgun in the back of their head. Now they must have known they were well outgunned, you know. Now as I say, when they used to go along with a bit of work, they took tools. When they went for these travellers checks, they took tools from them, you know. I've gone back and said, look, here's the samples, and they said, right Steve, change of plan, we're going to go up there and rob them. I said, fucking get out. Tony was so scared that he had like moved into another place with security gates, cameras. He knew I was out for him.
Where was he living when you knew him?
He lived in Shafford 100, just 2 minutes walk from Craig.
Tony did, right?
Yeah. And I knew that he was quite, because I used to talk to people in town and they say, oh yeah, Tony's known now, you know. I mean, I've seen Tony, I've seen Tony calling him, and he's a gut. I haven't seen him get beaten up. I've heard of him being beaten up, lying on the floor, please no more, you know. He's just a gut, I'll take it. He can get it, because he's a bully, he's a big bloke, or he was, you know. I'd like to go and look at that. If I could get hold of him, just the most disgusting thing I've heard.
And you're still frightened because of threats that are coming in through
They swore they're going to take my arms and legs up when they get hold of me.
Right.
And my dad had sworn if they left me in a wheelchair.
What did he get done to them? Make them like this?
It was basically, I didn't want nothing to do with them because of the main thing that really blew it was that phone call from Donna. I said Tony by now. So when they come round to me, what I should have done, I mean Tony used to all the time go around and rob people, right? Stick tools in their head, belly, whatever. What I should have done, which was, I admit I'm not the full ticket, I can't be, because the way of the life I've led and the things I do, right? I should have maybe just sat down and said, oh dear, I've been robbed, and just get on with my life. I wouldn't sit down and get robbed, and I retaliated. I went out, I purchased a gun, and I went out on my way to try and kill them. But I never did, I got nicked. And now, someone else will feel like I've done it.
How much are they paying you for it?
He hasn't told me yet.
He's giving you a ballpark figure. He must give you so you can work out whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah, nothing at all. And I phoned him up just before I come down here to see you. I said, have you sorted out the wages yet? He said, see, they said yesterday it might take up 2 pages. He said, it all depends how much it takes up.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying is that he'll go and like market it. If he can like sort the wages out before he prints it, you've got to agree to it, have you? Or is he going to print it anyway?
I assume I've got to agree to the wages and sign something. I haven't signed nothing to say it. He said he's going to show the police. He's shown you guys, I assume. I don't know if you said. You said you didn't know, didn't you? He said he
hasn't shown us personally. I understand that as a result of him speaking to one of our firms from the incident office, we're down here today.
Well, that is the only reason I've sold this story. So not because I paid someone to go and nothing. Because one, I wanted personal vengeance myself. And two, how could I trust something like Tony? Because Tony was such a great mate, I give him a set of keys to my house. Pat had a set of keys. I'd set my girlfriend had a set, right? Doors open, Tony's walked over. See, now Tony committed an offence here. Now me saying that, I can't.
He's dead, isn't he?
He's dead, yeah. Right, Tony walked in. Basically, about a week, 2 weeks before, he had a .22 revolver at my house. He left it there. I don't know if he meant to leave it there on purpose or what. I come across the revolver, looked like it was a real gun. I was, just like looked at it, cleaned it, made sure my prints were off it, and put it in the cupboard. So when Tony come round again, he'd take it when he wanted it. He must have known about it actually, because he'd been there again and he hadn't taken the gun. So the doors opened, in walked Tony, Craig and another person who I won't say.
So Craig Rolfe.
Craig Rolfe, yeah, and another person. I mean, when I was interviewed for Pat's attempted murder, you added the names, but I won't say the names. This bloke's still alive. They walked in. I didn't want to pull Tony in about the thieving because I didn't want to put him on the spot where he's got to be. I just basically said, all right, Tony. He said, all right. They used to call me Nipper, that'd be nickname. And he said, all right, Nipper. He said, where's the gun? Or he said, where's the thing? And he made a hand signal of a gun. I said, oh yeah. As I've given it to him, he's lifting me up with his left hand by the throat. He's just lifting me up the floor, put me against the wall, put the gun in my head. And he went on for 20, 30 seconds, I don't know. They took me back into a back bedroom, put me on the bed. Tony was kneeling astride of me, kept stabbing the gun in my head, saying, I noticed he was frothing at his mouth, his eyes were out his head. I knew he was cracked up. I basically thought, all that was going through my mind was, I won't see my sisters grow up and I won't see my girlfriend Louise. I knew he was going to kill me, and I thought, it won't hurt It's no good struggling, it won't hurt, I just won't even know a bane, you know, I'll just be dead. Anyway, he was on me, kept rounding on, he took my necklace, he told me he wanted to take my girlfriend's jewellery.
Yeah.
I just said, yeah, alright, Tony. I'm not saying, yeah, alright, if you take it, just, yeah, alright. I was confused, I was fucked up, I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
He put the gun away, pulled out a meat cleaver, and said, right, you've got to pay your hand or your foot. So I thought, well, if he chops off my foot, I can't walk. If he takes off my hand, I can still shoot him. Then, when he did that, I thought, I'm going to shoot. All I thought. I was sitting on the bed, I held out my right hand, held it up in the air, and I turned away and shut my eyes and thought, oh, I knew I was going to scream, I knew I was going to cry, I knew it was going to hurt, and I was just waiting for it to happen. After about 10 seconds, nothing happened. I opened my eyes, looked at him, and he was just standing there, big grin with a meat cleaver in his hand. With that, he's put the meat cleaver in his jacket and walked out of the bedroom door. I jumped up. The third person who was there, who I won't name, was grabbed hold of me, and I said, why are you doing this to me? This bloke said, leave him, let him calm down, it'll be alright. So I pushed him away, gone to walk towards Tony, he's turned around, pulled out the meat cleaver again, and he's lifted it up to hit me in the head. Well, I just stood there and I thought, well, fucking do it if you're going to do it. With that, this other person's grabbed hold of me and Craig, and they pushed me back in the bedroom and said, then leave him, let him calm down. With that, they walked out and left. I sat on my bed for about 5 or 10 minutes. My girlfriend, I don't know, I'd show that's the sort of stupid thing you would say.
Yeah.
But I mean, as I said, I obviously used to speak about this in prison, I speak about it all the time.
Yeah.
Not because I think I'm something clever, because I told them to fuck off, or not because I think I'm something clever or brave or heroic or anything. But it's when you talk to people, you talk about things like the amount of blokes who would say, oh yeah, it's just something you say.
Yeah.
And because Tony thought he thought come round and teach me a lesson, because I was basically filling him off, he wanted to come round and he wanted to fuck me off.
It's a bit of an embarrassment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the big old Tony Tucker.
Yeah.
The big old Tony Tucker, you know? And that's what it blew it all out of proportion.
Yeah.
But the most he should have done was come around and like some drugs over. People would often go out with him. Tony would like go up to say a beer in a club or something and say to them, or like, you know, got any drugs, or you said, no, anyone's got any drugs? They say, yeah, what do you want? He'd tell them. When whoever come along with the drugs, Tony would just take the drugs, slap around the face and send them go away. So they were getting their drugs for free when they went out, they were just robbing people all the time. And when they were getting money, they were spending it on drugs, and basically they just, they robbed off others for themselves. And they were just heavy drug users, but they could afford to, you know, they could afford to have it. You know, because people would like to suck up to them and give them drugs and give them money because they feared them. And where they were getting into this drug scene heavily, I began to break away from them. I didn't want nothing to do with them. I advised my girlfriend not to. I didn't want to associate them with Pat, Tony and Craig's girlfriend. Well, it's Pat and Tony's, not Craig's. I asked her to stay away. Shot you, Tate. I'd have phoned up Tony and leave messages. I'd do next. I was doing that. I said, never leave my family alone and come and find me, because you ain't got... And I was telling everyone, I shot Tate and I shot Tucker. Simply because they wouldn't come after me, they were going after my family, you know? Now, they lost a lot of respect there, because I was... You know, we were saying about South London criminals. I know some boys in South London. I phoned them up, right, and I said, look, I need a hand here, right? I don't need your help. This is when I was looking for a gun, right? This is when Tony said to me, blow your own head off, right? I said, I need a... And I said, they're threatening my family. They phoned up Tony and they said, if you've got problems, you take it to him, you don't take his family out, you do not touch it. And that's South London boys telling them pieces of shit not to, you know? And they listened to them because they knew when they were fucking going to get done, you know? And Tate and Tucker weren't happy, but a little wanker like me told them to fucking jog on. And I wasn't scared of them. I went 3 weeks ago and received a death threat on my phone.
Right, so you had those consistently from the time of...
As far as I know. The thing that's brought it back is I used to have a number plate, number 5 SE. It was my plate, Pat had 9TT. I put my plate up for sale. I needed the money.
Just 5
SE, yeah.
Right, okay.
And my dad put my plate up for sale, so I needed money, totally on my arse. He put it up for sale in exchange of giving his phone number.
Right.
They've seen it was my plate up for sale, got his phone number, just phoned them up. And they was telling you, we're going to get you. They just phoned up and giving
That's at his new house?
Yeah. So he started giving the number. And on top of all that, he then sent off the paperwork for the number plate without getting the money. And I've now lost the number plate.
How long ago was that?
I fell asleep on the bed about 3 o'clock in the morning. 6 o'clock in the morning, the phone's rung. Because I was asleep, as he woke me up, I just picked up the phone, it was Pat. I said, hello, Pat, it's Nipper. No, I said, hello, it's Nipper. He said, it's Pat. I said, Pat, why are you not doing this to me? He said, don't worry, mate, it's all sorted out. He said, we're going up to London now to sort out some business, but Tony and I will be round. Give us a call about 12, we'll pop round and see you. Now, I was straight away on my guard because the way he was so nice to me. Yeah. So I got up. I thought, right, I was panicking. I quickly had a wash, I wake myself up, and I thought I'll hide in the cupboard. So I hid in the cupboard of the shop, and I thought, well, fuck me, if they come in the back door, how am I going to see them? They get me, they kill me. So I run out to the car to go and get the knife and the other little gun. And as I was coming back in, as I was running out to the car, that was it. I went down the side alley, I was using the back alley so no one would see me. As I was running out to the car, I got the shotgun with me, in case they caught me. And all of a sudden, Tony's car screeched up out the front. Tony, Pat and Craig had all jumped out the car, gone running up the stairs to my place, kicked the door in, you could hear them kicking it in, and gone in the flat. I was there in the alley with a shotgun and I was panicking. I was scared. I was so scared, you know. Yeah. I didn't want them to come down the alley because I was frightened to shoot them. Like now it was actually there, I didn't know if I could, you know. I didn't want them to come down here to show them. They were in there about 5-10 minutes. They finally come out. They looked around. I was standing in the alley still, you know, just basically scared, rooted to the spot. They got in the car, drove down the road. I was still there. About 2 minutes later, they drove up the road and drove. I was using an old Volvo, and I drove past the Volvo. I think it was a flat through the back door. Put the shotgun down. There was a piece of paper on the side from Pat's Hall book. It said, "Nipper, don't let us lose all respect for you. I'm your mate. We want to help you." So I phoned him up. I can't remember if I phoned him then. I can't remember what. I don't know. I mean, times it fucked up, you know. Yeah, right. When I phoned him up, I said, he said, "Why'd you go out?" I said, "You come round to kill me." And he said, "No, we're your friends. We're going to help you." And I said, "No, you're trying to kill me." And he said, "No, we're going to help you." And I said, "Well, why did you all kick the door in to try and get me?" He said, "Why did you run?" I said, "I was outside." I said, "I was scared." I said, "You only come around for one thing." With that, what happened then? Well, I remember days just spent trying to chase them, trying to get hold of them, and I couldn't. And I remember that was it. I remember the shotgun, where I put the shotgun down and took his nose. When I went back, the shotgun had gone. They had found my shotgun. Right, I left it there in panic to get out of the house. After I phoned them, because I phoned them from the house and said like the message, I knew they knew I was at the house, and I just phoned out the back door, got in the bar and drove off.
They've obviously come straight back.
They'd come straight back, and I'd left my shotgun there, and they took my shotgun. Yeah. See, so I lost that. Then there was just days spent trying to find them. I had my little revolver, not a revolver, it was it pushed a magazine up the bottom of it. In the art, I don't know what they call him, just a gun.
Semi-automatic.
I don't know what it's called. Yeah, it said semi-automatic, funny enough. I had that in my, I didn't sleep. I slept in my car that night because I was scared to go home. Next morning I've gone in, went in through the back door, I had a knife. That was all I had. Yeah. It turns out as I walked in I knew something was wrong. There'd been stolen a microwave, can call, a TV, video, some my clothing, and they'd wiped their arse on all the clothing they left and snuck it on it. So I got on the phone straight away to Pat. His phone was turned off. I got on the phone to Tony. I said, "Where's my stuff?" And he just laughed. I said, and he just laughed at me. I then phoned up my friend again saying, "Look, the cunts have been in here." I told them what they'd done, and he said, "I can't get involved." He said, "Try so and so." I phoned up so and so. They didn't want to get involved.
Again, you phoned up.
I phoned up this person that I knew after a gun.
This is the third person that was.
No, this is a person that Pat introduced me to.
You were a weapon armourer. You were a
he could supply guns. Or he used to. He's in prison now. Okay. And I phoned him up. He couldn't get me a gun. He suggested somebody else. He couldn't get me a gun. Basically, he said this was Wednesday. I was going around trying to get a gun. Wednesday night, I again slept in the car. Went back Thursday morning. They'd been in the flat, totally destroyed it, taken everything. I mean, they'd smashed everything. Tony was so scared that he had moved into another place with security gates, cameras. He knew I was out for him.
Where was he living when you knew him?
He lived in Shafford 100, just 2 minutes walk from Craig.
Tony did, right?
Yeah. And I knew that he was quite. Because I used to talk to people in town, and they said, "Oh, yeah, Tony's not known now." You know. I mean, I've seen Tony. I've seen Tony shit himself when a gun's pulled at him, and he's a gutless piece of shit. I haven't seen him get beaten up. I've heard of him being beaten up, lying on the floor. "Please, no more, no more." You know. He's just a gutless cunt who can't take it. He can give it because he's a bully. He's a big bloke, or he was. If I could get hold of him, just the most disgusting thing I've heard. I heard at 12 o'clock Thursday evening. I heard it on the radio.
What, the first you ever heard of it was on midnight on Thursday?
That's when they released names.
Did you talk to your father at all, or anybody locally that might have? I mean, did you know there'd been an incident? You said you set up.
Thursday afternoon there was a thing about people shot, but.
What, on the radio?
No, it was on TV, wasn't it? There was
probably on both, I don't know. Yeah.
But then Friday night, 12 o'clock, was the first thing I heard on the radio. They released the names.
So was that midnight?
Midnight, Friday morning, Thursday night, Friday morning.
Yeah. Did you suspect by then It was just from chat or whatever?
No, not at all. No reason at all.
But so you just happened to be up on the news?
I was listening to the news. When they said a Range Rover, and 3 people shot dead, I wanted to know who it was. You know, I mean...
Doesn't happen every day, does it?
No, it doesn't.
All this information in all now. So that takes us up to about when Pat got shot. How long after Pat got shot were you nicked?
Oh, 3, 4 weeks.
Right.
Maybe not quite as long. About 3 weeks, I should imagine.
You were wearing body armour then, weren't you?
Yeah.
So you were expecting a... Still then, after you were in the hospital, he was still in the hospital with your neck, was he?
Yeah, no, he'd actually been nicked himself then, because you know that gun that I said he took off me, he had in the hospital.
Yeah.
What it turns out he'd done, when he was shot, I phoned him up and I said, I phoned him up at the end of the day, right, I still think, I know it sounds stupid, but I still think, when I first met Pat, he was a brilliant geezer.
Yeah.
I know, like, you got your own views of him, I won't ask you your views. Pat was a fucking good bloke, he looked after me, he was a good mate to me. If I wanted anything, he would help me out. I didn't have nothing, and he helped me out. He gave me food in prison.
Yeah.
He got me steroids. If I wanted anything, Pat would help me out. And he never wanted nothing off me. There was nothing I could give him. We were just good mates. So in a way, I still got a like. I still think of Pat as a good geezer. And that sounds stupid.
No, right, okay.
But there's at the back. I fucking hate the bloke for what he done to my. It wasn't so much him; it was Tony. I think if I fucking hate him, I was happy shot Tony, but there'd been that slight hesitation to shoot Pat. Do you see what I mean? Because Pat was, I mean, we were really close.
Went back a bit, yeah.
Yeah, but he fucked up because he became involved with Tony.
Yeah.
And I mean, Sarah said it. Pat
We haven't got to that bit yet, have we? Why is you so hate Tony?
Well, because when he come round and he robbed me and he threatened my family and that.
Is that as far as it goes?
Yeah, that's why I hate him. He put that gun in my head. I suppose you know the saying, never pull a tool unless you're going to use it. And I say to this day, he should have pulled the trigger when he had that gun in my head. You know, he should have done that. It turns out he was so cracked out his head that he didn't, or whether he was so gutted that he couldn't. I don't know, but he was frothing at the mouth when he was like going. And he should. That is why, knowing the sort of person he was, I honestly believed he was going to kill me. And I say, I'm not a hero, I'm not brave. I didn't cry. I just accepted my fate, and I just gutted. I wanted to see my sisters grow up. That's all I wanted to do, and see my girlfriend. And that is all I was thinking. And that was when I decided I was going to kill him. But someone's beat me to it. But my father actually had a hitman go round to his house with a gun looking for me. They received threats about
again, your father?
There was a black. Well, my dad was indoors one day when all the trouble was going down.
Yeah.
And there was a knock on the window, knock on the door. Sorry, because he knew the trouble. He went to the top upstairs window. He looked out. He said his description was there was a big bloke there, dark, with a long overcoat on and gloves. This was in summer, and he said in his pocket he had a gun. He said he had a gun that he was pushing.
Which is dark. Does he mean coloured or dark skin?
Dark hair. I can't remember if he said he had a beard, because when he told me who I thought he was, I thought it was a bouncer that worked at Tony.
Called?
It doesn't matter what he was called, does it? You know, because I might be saying the wrong thing about the bloke. I might be saying, in other words, he's like walking around with a gun trying to find me.
But he'd come to kill your old man?
No, my dad's opened the window and he said, yeah, what's the matter, mate? He said, Stevie. My dad said, no, he don't live here. He said, oh, Steve Ellis. He said, he told me he lived here. My dad said, no, I've got my address. He said, just tell him I've got something for him. And with that, my dad's pulled the window shut, run down the stairs. He's like, when he thieving stuff off me, I caught Tony and Pat thieving my stuff. Turns out they were furnishing where Paul and Donna were living.
Right, so there's your chattels and your furniture and stuff about your flat?
Yeah, almost everything they took went to the girls' place. And this night, I'm in bed. Donna knew Tony was at home with Anna.
Yeah.
Paul knew Pat was at home or trying to reconcile his relationship with Sarah. Yeah. My girlfriend's at home, and I'm lying in bed watching TV. The phone's rung. I picked up. It was Donna. She told Steve, do you know where Tony is? So I said, well, he's at home with Anna. Just sort of stupid thing, stupid crap, not what I'm saying.
Right.
Thought nothing of it, hung the phone up. Anyway, that was on the Sunday. Next Friday and Saturday, Tony and Pat were at my place having a party. This is when I called them feeding the stuff. I thought they were. I didn't know until like Monday when I was cleaning up my flat, and I realised they'd actually stolen it. So on the Tuesday morning, the next morning,
when you say stuff, what are you talking about specifically?
They'd stolen my toaster, my kettle, some tea towels, some towels, some food, and I think they'd taken the iron. I'm not sure.
Okay, right, so just little household appliances and
they just took those few things, yeah. This was on the Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Sunday I've gone back to my flat. It was a complete shithole. I went out for the day. Monday I come back. No, sorry, Sunday they left. Monday, because I've been sleeping in my car, so I just didn't want nothing to do with them. But I couldn't get them out of my house, my flat, if you understand.
Yeah.
Monday I've gone back, seen they'd stolen my stuff. I had to do, I can't remember what I had to do on Monday, but I didn't start clearing up. Well, I started clearing up. Tuesday morning I'm clearing up. The door's open. As I'm clearing up, I realised I wanted to call Tony and Pat and say, you've thieved off me, I want you out of my life.
About it being a hit went wrong, that they were the ones that were actually chartering the hit.
Yeah.
And I mean, would that, and it hints as a person they wanted, would that be you?
I did hear, funny enough, yeah, that night, I heard the story. I mean, I phoned up some of my friends in town and they phoned me.
Yeah.
I heard that the meeting was, they were sorting out a hit that night to get me nutted. That is what I actually heard. But I was also believing that it was another phony drug deal they were setting up. This is what I believed it was. But then somebody's come back and told me, Steve, they were actually sorting out you to get you nutted. And because the person they were meeting was a hitman, somebody they'd upset a few weeks ago had already got the hit out on them. See? So it just backfired. They've gone down to arrange a hit on me, and Bob's your uncle, their head's blown off. And I think he's brilliant.
So would you describe, I mean, like Tony and Pat as being at the head of their organisation?
Oh yeah.
Right, they don't work for anybody else?
No.
So if they were sorting a hit out, it's them sorting it out, isn't it? They're not doing it for anybody else. They're not in...
No, they don't.
Explain to the Tate what it is you're a suspect for, which is the murder of Pat Tate, Craig Rolfe and Tony Tucker in Essex, Rettendon in Essex, on the night of the 6th to the 7th of December this year.
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. I think that all those three of those people are known to you, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me about your association with, let's take one at a time, Pat Tate?
I met
Pat Tate for?
Met Pat in prison in January 1990 in Chelmsford Prison. He'd just been brought back from Gibraltar, where he was extradited, is the word? He was brought back to England anyway. I was in there for a robbery, or a robbery charge that was eventually dropped. I was into bodybuilding, and I didn't really know what to do. Pat was a bodybuilder. He basically took me under his wing, showed me how to do it, and we become friends. Right. I stayed in touch with Pat when I was eventually out, released from prison in April '91. Pat was then serving a 10-year sentence, which he got knocked down to 8 in appeal. I stayed in touch with him through my prison sentence and through his prison sentence, and when he was released on parole in the summer of '94, he come out. We were still good friends. We started seeing a lot of each other, getting involved in just doing, as friends do. And he eventually had trouble with his girlfriend because they'd been apart for so many years. They were living in cramped conditions in Basildon. And he asked me if I could move into my house, my flat. I had a large 3-bedroom flat. Pat just basically said he'd like to move in for a couple of weeks. So he could sort his life out with Sarah, because they were buying a bungalow and they would eventually move into that, and it'd be okay to move out, then him and Sarah would be okay. Couple of weeks turned into a couple of great friend of his called Tony Tucker, and Tony Tucker had a great friend called Craig Rolfe, and Pat told me how brilliant Tony was, and Tony told me how brilliant Craig was, and Tony made me feel like the best bloke in the world. He made you feel like his best mate, and he'd do anything for you. And Pat and I were terrific mates, and we were all really good mates. And then they become heavily involved in drugs, or they were already heavily involved in drugs, but it became apparent to me they were a lot more into drugs than I even realised they were. And through them earning so much money, through them earning money in the deals they did and the things they did, their business, they were doing more drugs. They were going to kill me. There was 2 blokes coming, and I was walking out to the field, and I said to someone, "Yeah, I'll see you later." And this really tall bloke, dark, real lunatic, he's all nice scars and that. He's turned around to me and said, "Yeah, I'll see you later on all, Steve." I said, "Oh, it's who are you?" He said, "Nipper." I said, "Yeah." And at the time I was carrying out the stuff for the baseball, and I had a skip with my hand. And he said, him and his mate, he said, "We're friends at Pat Tate and Tony Tucker." I said, "Yeah, you fucking alright." He said, "Well, come and do it now." And I grabbed the skittle and I was going to smash him out the head. He said, "Woo, woo, woo." He said, "We know the score on this." And he said, "Pat and Tony's offered us a lot of money, up to about 10 grand, he said, to do you while we're in prison." He said, "But we now know the side of the story, and we're not going to get involved." And
which week was that?
Chelmsford.
At Chelmsford,
yeah. And the prison actually knew about it. There was a lot of grief in there.
Right, so it was on record,
oh yeah, and there was a suspected gun in the prison, and one of the POs, like principal officer, he called me in the office and he said, we think the gun might be for you.
Apart from the threats, you obviously made your own friends in there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm happy-go-lucky. I don't treat people like dirt. I don't think I do, and I'd laugh. I'm out for a laugh. I mean, while I was in there, the police wanted me put. You wanted me put on special protection. The police that were involved on the case put me on the numbers. The Rule 43 protection. I said, "I'm not going on protection." The screw said, "It's best you do, because Pat's in the prison and you know what happened." I said, "I'm not doing it." And they said, "Well, we can't force you." But they left me on D wing, which is like a workers' wing, and they kept me as a cleaner on there, so I wouldn't be like in too much for the rest of the population in the prison. And I ended up like, as I say, even when I see the screw said, just come and tell us. I said, I ain't telling you nothing. You know, if it was going to happen, then I said, let whoever come for me. You know, I'm not going to run and hide.
Quite a lot of this that was heard was that it was about a dodgy TC deal. Quite a big travellers checks.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know whether that was all part of it as well.
That was something that added it to basically there was a deal set up.
Yeah.
One of my mates knew some people who had £250,000 worth of travellers checks. They were meant to come up. I spoke to one of Tony's mates. He said he was interested in the deal, but he couldn't. He had to get £250,000 for 60 grand. He couldn't raise the 60 grand, so I said to my mates, "You can't get it." They then come back. The bloke phoned me. There's 125 grand's worth left for 30 grand. So I said to Tony's mate about it. Tony's mate said, "Yeah, it's definitely happening this time." The deal was set up. I went to check they were real travellers checks. Come back with some examples. I come back. There was Pat, Tony, the third bloke who was with them when Tony and Craig robbed me, and one of Tony's mates, the one who was going to buy them. These 4 people. With me, there was my 2 mates, the 2 mates who had set up the deal. Right, so there was 7 of us. One of my mates was with the bloke who was selling the travellers checks in a pub in London, and I'd come back by myself. And my other mate was there. Right, he's in the car with me. Sorry, that was it. We all went up. We'll come back. Me and me mate. I'll call them. I don't know. I'll call my mates. One who was in London was one. One who was in the car with me, number 2. Right, because I don't want to involve these, although they, you know, whatever.
Well, it's perhaps best we don't talk about this now. Then.
Yeah. Well, basically, what it was is we went up. They didn't have the money. The sole intention was to rob the people of their travellers checks. The blokes come out of the pub. Pat set about and started beating him up. I tried to pull Pat off him.
But they weren't carrying money anyway.
No.
So it was basically going to be a...
Basically set them up,
right.
just beat the shit out of them kind of stuff. And I went, man, you're treating people like shit, they're my friends.
So they were going to rob them for the TC?
For the travellers checks.
Right, and they had no money on them?
Nothing at all. It was a complete set-up, and they only told me when I got back.
And you admitted that?
Yeah,
in effect.
Without knowing that they were going to rob my mates.
Exactly. All right, so you obviously felt a bit shafted on that.
So that was something else to add to the fire.
And where did that come chronologically? I mean, did that come while Pat was living with you?
Yeah.
Right. So as well as Tony having the ump with you, you had the raving up with Pat and Tony, but having you over on that one, really, and make you look a prat in front of you.
Yeah.
Because I suppose your blokes uptown thought you were part of that.
Yeah, and we fell out for it big time, and it's never been the same between me and them.
How long before Pat was shot was that?
Oh, about 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
It's all about the same sort of time.
Approached about 4 years ago by a former member of the defence team who asked me the question, do I think that Mick Steele and Jack Holmes are guilty? I had obviously some involvement in it, not in the actual murder investigation, but in the preceding drugs operation, and obviously I know all the people around that time. And I said categorically, yeah, they're guilty. There's no doubt. You can't change my mind. They're gonna, they are guilty. Had a long conversation, and as a result of that, I was given some material that I read that I sort of thought that's not right. There's something not quite right about all this. And then following that, reviewed some more stuff, and then questions. I started sort of raising questions about what had gone on at the time, and started to get doubts, to be honest. So I brought in some independent people, completely independent, who have got nothing, weren't part of TMI at all. Very senior former police officers who I said, look, I've got my views on this. Take this material away. Review it, see what you think, come back and tell me what your view is. And Albert Patrick, for instance, came in and took the whole lot away, reviewed it, came back and said, yep, something's seriously wrong here. And at that point, we really started to dig into it. So we started meeting with former Essex officers, serving Essex officers, serving Met officers and former officers, meeting witnesses, former informants, and obviously using our backgrounds of investigating organised crime, we were able to talk to a lot of people in confidence. And the end result of that is that we've come to the conclusion that there's been a miscarriage of justice. We looked at two things, or one primary thing, which was the question, did Darren Nichols tell the truth? If Darren Nichols told the truth, then Michael Steele and Jack Holmes are guilty and quite rightly went to prison for the murders. If Darren Nichols lied, then clearly there has been a miscarriage of justice. And you get a lot of noise around this case. There's lots of conspiracy theories and all sorts of things to get off at tangents around other murders. But the fact is, it comes down to one simple fact, which the trial judge made very clear at the original trial. If you believe Darren Nichols, then they are guilty. If you don't, then they're innocent. Our view, based on the material we've seen, is that Darren Nichols told lies. Darren was basically, he went into the protected witness program, supergrass program. We've spoken to a number of former Essex officers who looked after him, who were part of the armed team that looked after Darren, and one of them described him as being treated like a king. Whilst he was in the cell, they partitioned off half the cell area at particular police stations, and he had his own games machine, and he had his own TV. He was allowed to go down the pub whenever he wanted to go down the pub. They would have to go with him as an armed protection team. Effectively, he did what he wanted while he was in custody. And even to the point where he was, one of the people we spoke to, who doesn't actually appear in the programme, but was part of it, was he described how they went to, a fun fair, and the entire family turned up, and, the entire family were paid for by Essex Police to go, on all the rides, etc. So he was treated like a king. He bought his, he got convicted of the offences he said he had committed, and we don't believe he admitted all his criminality. And he went and got a new life, effectively, a new identity, a new life, and remains within the protected witness program. I've done jury and witness protection. You live with the jurors, day in, day out, 24/7. You become part of the family. They get to know you. So you do end up influencing the way a jury thinks. And there was a lot of theatre being played out in this case. They were being brought by armed police into the court. There was all sorts of antics went on. There was a lot of stuff in the papers, larging up. Mickey Steele was, the angel of death, I think, was one of the papers. There was this big portrayal of Steele and Holmes as these gangsters. The reality is, we've spoken to them, that, Jack Holmes is a car mechanic. His life is mending cars. He's not a trained assassin, who he's not someone you would automatically think is going to shoot 3 men dead in a professional hit. He doesn't fit the bill at all. This is a man who was a car mechanic who allegedly killed 3 people in cold blood with no motive, who then goes to prison and becomes a model prisoner. It just doesn't fit. It's not right. It's absolutely not right. And Michael Steele's a villain. There's no doubt about it. He's a villain. He was a drugs importer by his own admission. He was involved in that trade. His big mistake, and both Holmes and Steele's big mistake, was the evidence against them for the drugs offences was very, very strong. But by going not guilty to those offences, the jury probably sat there and thought, if they did that, the evidence is very strong. They're probably lying about the murders as well. So I don't think that played well, and perhaps they didn't take the best decisions, and the defence team didn't give them the best advice around the drugs offences. Michael Steele's name was in circulation as being responsible almost from day one. No evidence, simply that information had been received at the most senior levels of Essex Police that Michael Steele, Mickey the pilot, that's how they refer to him, Mickey the pilot, had been responsible. What is interesting is that, from all of the police officers we've spoken to, some very senior, they had no evidence against Michael Steele at all until Darren Nichols rolled over and started giving his account of what had gone on. Up until then, there was no intelligence, no information, no evidence of Michael Steele's involvement. So Darren Nichols is the beginning of the evidential trail, if you like. From our investigation, what we know, and we've got this from both sides of the fence, is that from literally days after the murders, Essex police were given information that suggested that Mickey the pilot, Michael Steele, was responsible. And from that point, you know, in the words that Albert always uses, the investigation became blinkered. They didn't look outside at anything else. And what we found from very early on from reviewing the paperwork that we've had access to is that you've got all of the pieces of the jigsaw within the Essex police paperwork, within the evidence, the intelligence, the information that was in their systems. Everything was there. And the way I sort of try to simplify is they had all the pieces of the puzzle to make the puzzle, or get half the puzzle made at least, but they didn't even open the box. They were just completely blinkered on Michael Steele. Michael Steele was responsible, and every effort was put into, you know, to convicting Michael Steele. And it wasn't until Darren Nichols' arrest and Darren Nichols giving initially information, and then obviously he went on to give evidence, that they then convicted Michael Steele and Jack Womes. And what it's quite interesting that they actually charged Michael Steele and Jack Womes with the murders. At that point, although Darren Nichols was talking about the murders, he hadn't actually made a written statement. They charged Steele and Womes on the back of what he was saying rather than any evidence. He hadn't made a formal written statement at the point that he was charged. At trial, there was evidence submitted in relation to cell site. It was the first time cell site had ever been used in a criminal trial, and so it was, you know, it was in its infancy. What's interesting is the cell site was used to corroborate the evidence of Darren Nichols. However, you know, we've worked with the UK's leading expert on cell site, who made witness statements at the time and for the appeals and for the CCRC, the Criminal Cases Review Commission, a chap called David Bristow, who usually gives evidence for the police to convict people. David Bristow, like ourselves, is absolutely convinced of the innocence of Jack Womes and Michael Steele, and he has done all of the tests required that should have been done at the time. And his evidence is that, contrary to what the police put forward in evidence around cell site, they were wrong. That wasn't correct. His evidence is that Michael Steele was more likely where he said he was in Bolton, as part of his alibi. And likewise, the important point that is put forward by the police is that they suggest that Jack Womes was in Workhouse Lane at 1859 and made 2 calls in Workhouse Lane. And David Bristow, the UK's leading expert, says absolutely not. No way could he have made those phone calls. He would more likely be down the road at the Wheatshift Public House, which is where he said in his alibi he was. So yet again, you've got material that has been undermined. And we go back to this one important point is, did Darren Nichols tell the truth? And the evidence now suggests very strongly that he lied. It's important as well that, you know, the original trial judge, after conviction, sentenced them to 15 years. 15 years for a triple killing. Now, that in itself sends a very strong message about what the trial judge thought about the evidence and convictions. 15 years for a triple killing is unheard of. It was obviously upped by Jack Straw to, I think, 25 or 26 years. But the original trial judge sent a very strong message when he gave them with this whole system. The system is broken effectively, because the only route to a new trial or to prove a miscarriage of justice is through the Court of Appeal. In order to get to the Court of Appeal, the only route there is through the Criminal Cases Review Commission. So effectively, you would make an application to the CCRC. It's reviewed by their people. Quite often, they're not detectives, they're not police officers, sometimes they're solicitors. And it's not a team, you know, often it's just one or two individuals who are looking at this material and they make the decision. But if they, as they did with the Operation Obtain and Section 19 inquiry, they kept their focus very tight around, did Darren Nichols get paid for media appearances or books prior to the trial? And so by keeping it narrow, a very narrow focused investigation, all of that other material became irrelevant to them as such. It shouldn't have become irrelevant to them. It should have been fully disclosable, and the Court of Appeal should be made fully aware that, you know, these people were saying that Darren Nichols lied. But the issue and problem is that it's a very, once you're convicted, it's a very difficult route to follow to get back to the Court of Appeal and overturn a conviction. Very, very difficult. None of that evidence didn't really come out until after the trial, and as part of, there was an operation, an investigation in about 2002 by Hertfordshire Police as part of what they call a Section 19 inquiry, and a lot of this material came out as a result of that. It was a very focused inquiry. The CCRC had asked them to review whether or not Darren Nichols had been paid prior to trial for doing TV programmes, media appearances and writing books. It's quite clear that, yes, he was. And at one point, it appears he even had a video camera in his cell and was doing a day diary. But what also came out of that, importantly, and everyone sort of missed it, is that, or it was ignored, is a series of statements from a number of protected witnesses who were other supergrasses within the protected witness scheme who were serving alongside Darren Nichols, and Darren Nichols was openly telling them people that he was going to lie in court. So this is prior to trial. Darren Nichols was telling people that he was going to give perjured evidence. Not only that, he also told them that he was being coached, and he told us something that hadn't come out before. He told us that he'd been given documents to allow him to create his story around the actual cell site data. Bottom line is Darren Nichols is the case, you know, and that's, as I said at the beginning, the trial judge made that very clear. There was no other evidence. It was Darren Nichols either told the truth or he lied. And if it could have been proven that Darren had lied, then obviously the case would have fallen apart. The other important point to it was that there was other credible and compelling evidence of the involvement of other people that had been deliberately ignored as well. And so if the jury had been given the option of the Darren Nichols story and, you know, for instance, the Witness A story that we talk about in the programme, if they'd have been given both versions, you know, the car mechanic with no motive killed 3 men in cold blood compared to, you know, a professional assassin linked to organised crime with a solid motive, I don't think the jury would ever have convicted Steele and Worms. Two important calls, 1803 and 1809, which Michael Steele is alleged to have made to Jack Worms, and according to Darren Nichols and the police, Michael Steele was meant to have been in the halfway house, public house, at the time of those calls. The evidence of David Bristow is absolutely impossible. He couldn't have been there because of the topography of the land. Those calls went through the Childerditch cell tower, and it was more likely, highly likely, that he was actually where he said he was, in Bolton, which is the evidence that his partner also put forward. And the other important thing that we discovered is we've done the timelines for each of them. We followed the actual timelines. The original police investigation and defence at the time had looked at the timeline for Jack Worms and Darren Nichols, but they never looked at the timeline for the victims. When you follow the timeline for the victims, Tucker, Tate and Rolfe in the Range Rover, it's impossible for that Range Rover, the victims, to have got to Workhouse Lane in time for their murders. It's a very tight, narrow 11 minutes. Tucker, Tate and Rolfe could not have got to the scene in time for that 11-minute window. So it all falls apart, and there's one really, really important point. Jack Worms, at 12 minutes past 5, was in Sudbury, in Willemere Caravan Park in Sudbury. And we know he was there because the phone call that he makes goes through the Sudbury cell site, the BBC mast. Darren Nichols says that Jack Wombs was at Mark's Tate at 5 p.m. That's impossible. Unless he's a time traveller, you cannot get from Sudbury to Mark's Tate, you know, before you've even left. It's 25 minutes minimum on a decent day. And nobody seemed to have picked that up at trial. But the bottom line is, he couldn't possibly have been where Darren Nichols said he was. It's impossible. The question is, who lured them to the lane, who really lured them to the lane, and who really shot them? There are phone records, and there are important phone calls that were deliberately left off the schedule that was given to the jury. And we've investigated some of those calls and who made those calls or who those calls were made to. And those people have never been arrested or interviewed. Quite bizarrely, to be honest. You know, you would think if the last person that, say, for instance, Pat Tate calls before he speaks to his girlfriend at 1844, 1848, the last person he talks to, you would think would be a suspect, or at least would be interviewed. They never interviewed him, which is bizarre. We have spoken to her at length, and you know, I interviewed her. I spoke to her about 4 hours. She could not be telling lies. The level of detail that she recalls about the night and what happened, you don't remember the lie to that level. You can remember the lie, but you can't remember, you know, at the point when snow started falling or the car was skidding on the ground, etc. You don't remember that level of detail, and she's very detailed in her account of what she recalls from that night. So she was part of Mick's alibi. There's also, importantly, a petrol receipt that Mick Steele says he picked up, or he refueled the car with petrol in his Peugeot car, whereas Darren Nichols says that Michael Steele was driving a diesel Hilux. So there was a petrol receipt from that evening on a credit card, and that mysteriously went missing from court. We come across stuff almost on a daily basis. You know, every single week we sit in you know, talking. It's incredible the amount of stuff that has not been disclosed, that should have been disclosed, and various pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. For instance, you know, as I said earlier, within the intelligence and information that Essex Police and evidence that Essex Police had in their possession at the time was all of the material that supports Witness A's account. And yet, when Witness A was arrested, interviewed, and then released back to the Met, there was no investigation of his evidence at all. None at all. They just completely ignored the fact that this man had admitted to driving another person to the vicinity who then carried out the executions. They completely ignored it. They carried out no investigation inquiries at all. And yet, within their own documents, there's all the evidence to support that. There are numerous theories, and we've investigated, you know, and spoken to numerous people. And I mean, just this week alone, I've had 3 or 4 people call me and talk about, you know, their wives, girlfriends, husbands, you know, all being linked or involved in it, you know. So there's all sorts of theories, but you've got to cut through, you know, the noise effectively. And the important point around Witness A's account, you know, he definitely didn't tell the whole truth, Witness A, but his account is very credible, particularly when you tie in other material and evidence and intelligence. And it should have been looked at. It wasn't. This is the big point we keep making, is that Essex Police should have investigated his account. They never did. And it's really frustrating because as part of all of the publicity that's come out around this, the Essex Police and the former SIO, Mr. Dibley, keep referring to an exhaustive investigation leading to the convictions of Steele and Wombs. Absolute rubbish. They completely ignored a man who said he drove another man to the scene who committed the murders. They ignored it completely. That's hardly an exhaustive investigation. Nichols claims that he obviously drove Jack Wombs to the scene and that he then picked both Jack Wombs and Michael Steele up from the scene. Nichols is quite, you know, he talks about them wearing boiler suits, boot boiler suits, and surgical gloves, and importantly wearing Wellington boots. He says both of them were wearing Wellington boots. There is not one Wellington boot print anywhere in the lane to and from the crime scene or anywhere around the crime scene. Nothing. What there is one right foot trainer print, high-tech size 10 trainer print, by the rear door, which is where the assassin would have leant in with the shotgun and shot the three of them dead. That trainer print obviously is significant. You're talking about, you know, snow on the ground, very cold, inclement weather. When you go back to Witness A's account, when he gets interviewed back in January, 5 months before Nichols gets arrested, he talks about the assassin wearing tracksuit and trainers. He couldn't possibly have imagined that there was a trainer print found at the scene. And the interviewing officers obviously didn't pick up on it. They ignored it. And it's the most, you know, you would have thought at that point, someone would have said, there's a tracksuit, a trainer print found at the scene. You know, his evidence suddenly gets a huge amount of credibility. They didn't, they ignored it, and they released him back into the Met. Jack Womes came out on parole last January, and has gone back to doing what he does. He's a car mechanic, you know, that's his life. It's got back to his family. Still maintains his innocence, but they've given him very, very strict parole conditions, unheard of before, that he can't talk to the media or press. You ask yourself a question, why? And Michael still remains a Category A prisoner, and locked up 23 hours a day, 7 days a week, age 79 years old, which again, you know, you would ask yourself why, because he's not a violent man. Obviously, according to the Crown, you've got to remember, the evidence of Darren Nichols is not that Michael Steele carried out the murders. He was the man who effectively lured them to the lane, but Jack Womes is the man who actually carried out the murder. So you would ask yourself the question why Michael Steele remains a Category A prisoner when he's not the man who pulled the trigger. So, you know, there is a big question mark around the risk that Michael Steele, you know, that exists around him, because he wasn't the shooter. He wasn't the man who pulled the trigger. Jack Womes never admitted his guilt and always maintained his innocence, but he was such a model prisoner that the prison service supported his parole. Michael Steele is a different character. Michael will not admit his guilt. He says, I did not do this, and I'm not admitting to something I didn't do. He could have been released in 2019. His tariff was up in 2019. He could have been released in 2019. If he'd have played their game and he'd admitted, you know, I did do it and I'm really sorry, etc., gone on all the courses, he could have been released. He could be out now. He didn't, and he won't, because he didn't do it. And, you know, we are all former detectives. We spent our lives convicting bad people and putting them in prison. We would not be trying to get Michael Steele out of prison if we had any doubt at all that he was guilty. Wouldn't do it. It's cost me a bloody fortune. It's cost time, resources, effort, friends. I've lost friends over it, you know, former serving officers. The reality is Michael Steele did not kill Tucker, Tate and Rolfe. You can't deal with this in isolation. There are a series of other linked events and offences that are tied to various convictions, particularly convictions in Essex. And, you know, you've got the Barrymore case, you've got the Lee Balkall case, John Palmer, the most recent case. All of these cases, if one of those was to fall over, then the dominoes would fall and there would be some serious questions asked. And, you know, you've only got to look what's happening within the Met at the moment, within the police service and policing in general. You know, it's not, the establishment do not want another high-profile miscarriage of justice case. But the reality is that, you know, unless you see justice, people are going to make their own minds up as to what's going on. And all we're trying to do is we're just trying to tell people, we're just trying to put the other side of the story out there.
Hi everyone, Brian again. Just come on, I'm going to put a few theories out. I want to get the truth, okay? And why the rumours are going around from some people, I don't think we're ever going to get it. I know Bernard's brought his new book out, and good luck to Bernard. You with me? We know deep down that he was never a partner, and I always thought there was a theory behind something behind it when you kept going from one side to the other. But end of the day, it's money to you, isn't it? So good luck with your money, good luck with your books, like you said to mine. End of the day, Colton, I'm not going to go at you again, but I've been watching some podcasts, trying to catch up with things, to be honest with you, because all this is more or less new to me over the years. I've only been going a bit. Now, you said you got a phone call about Tony's death at 9:30, then another podcast, it was 10:30. So I think you're a little bit confused when you did get the phone call. And then you said you was number one suspect. Now, I can prove you was never pulled in or never questioned by the police. And I can prove that. And I can prove that you never, ever was mentioned at the call. So, like I say again, mate, you know, I'm willing to meet all of yous. Anywhere you want, I'll meet you and have a chat. Whether you give me a smack or not for saying what I'm saying about, I'm not bothered about that. All I want is the truth out. I know they're innocent, so I'm going to put a couple of theories to you, all right? We know Donna's lying about the machine gun, all right? We know it for a fact, because I know where it come from. So we know Donna's lying about that. We know Donna's lying about Kevin Whitaker. We know Donna was there when Kevin passed away. Kevin wasn't killed. It wasn't meant to be killed. It was they drugged him to find information. It went too far. They got rid of the body. Mark Randall told me a lot about that. So back in 94. 95, I wasn't around. I'm not going to say I was. The start of it, I was there, but after that, I was gone. So I don't know a lot that went on, and I'm not going to lie and say I did. But my theory is, okay, after the young lass was killed, there was a lot of pressure put on Tony, Craig and Pat. Okay. Now, we know Bernard went in hiding after doing some speaking. That's up to Bernard, and he has his own reasons for that. But there was a couple of police officers on the payroll. Now, I wonder if Tony or Pat put some pressure on the police to make it all go away, or will expose you. Now, this is my theory, and I could be wrong, and you could laugh at me. So the police panicked a bit, and the police set them up, arranged it, whatever, got someone professional in. I don't know. I don't really know, but that's my theory. I know the two police officers took a lot of backhanders, and they're still around. You with me? And I'm willing to name them. I'm willing to go on oath and name them. But that's my opinion. I think they were pushed a bit, the police, and the only way out was to get rid of them. And that's what they did. So that's my theory. It's all right, people saying, well, Jack was in the back of the Range Rover. No one knows who's in the back of the Range Rover. You're only listening to what Nichols says. And Nichols is proved to be a liar by a lot of people. So no one knows who's in the back of that car. Even I don't. I wished I did. Okay? Apparently only one shooter. Some people saying there was two. I don't know. I can only listen to what evidence are out there. And when it comes from professionals, I'd sooner believe them than believe Bernard or Colton. You with me? Now, people can turn around and say, Brian, we don't believe you. I'm not bothered with who don't believe me. I don't bother the little things that come up last night calling me a nonce. I mean, a bit sick, really. I mean, I didn't go courting a young girl, did I? So I'll rethink that one again. And then no one come up with that Colton would deck me if he see me. Now, he probably would. I'm not a fighter. But I'm willing to meet Colton. He hasn't come back and answered my questions. So in my eyes, he's lying. You know, I'd appreciate him to try and say, oh, come on the phone, or he's got my number. You've all got my numbers. Somebody profiled my phone number. Ring me and say, oh, you little fucker, I'll meet you somewhere. We discuss this. Yeah. I keep asking yous lot to come round the table. I know we don't like each other, but it's not about liking each other. It's about putting our stories together, our stories out, and then whittling out the lies. You with me? And then getting to the truth. Let's help these two. Let's help these two get their conviction overturned. Instead of thinking about, well, I'm going to make money out of this because I'm going to carry on dragging this story out there guilty. I'm going to come up with stories like Tony phoned me. I was top of the hit list. You know what I mean? I got pulled in, but come on, you say they're your mates. Tell the truth about it. They're dead. You wouldn't be slagging them off if they're alive, would you, Colton? Bernard, you wouldn't be. We know that for a fact. So it's all about money, how much money we can make. Now, okay, people are going to say, well, you've made money out of your book, Brian. I have made money out of my book. My book's done well. But like I said before, I sold my car to finance my book, to put a story out about my brother, the truth about him. There's too many people out there, like Nipper Elliott the other day. My brother was a gopher. You wouldn't say that to his face, would you, in the days? I'm not having a go at you, Nipper, you with me? And whatever your dad told you, he told you. I'm not saying you're lying. He might have told you to make you feel good. Your dad didn't do it, mate. You know, it was a professional hit. There was nothing left, nothing trace. See, like people saying that Mick was in the 4x4. There was no evidence anyone was in the 4x4 next to him, was there? There was no DNA that Mick was there. We're all going by Nichols. Now, Nichols got pulled with a load of gear. Okay, so Nichols might have thought, well, okay, I'll go along with this, they're going to prison myself. I don't know. I can't answer Nichols. And maybe one day, well, he won't come forward. He's a very hated man because if he's lied, he's in a lot of trouble. So he'll be looked after. And then you go on about Bernard, my partner. I was a partner. Even Colton said, you want a partner, mate. They didn't like you. I'm not going to keep going on about they didn't like you. They didn't. You don't like me. I don't like you. I don't like Colton. Colton don't like me. It's life. But all I'm doing is putting the truth out. What I know. And I know the machine gun did not come where it said it come from. Okay? With Donna, that's wrong. It come from Manchester, the gun. And Craig picked it up. Okay? And a lot of the other firearms come from Manchester. I know that. I organised, I won't get myself in trouble too much, but I was there when they was introduced to people. And, okay, you're going to say, well, you're lying, Brian. But I was in Manchester. It's on record. I got caught. I pinched a car at the Piccadilly Hotel after the meet, okay? I went upstairs where they could bring the cars into the car park and the keys are kept on a board in an office. And I took a car, all right, to get us home. So we weren't having the same car. And I got arrested. So I'm on record as getting arrested in Manchester. I worked at a casino that we were going to rob. Now, there's people on here, and I can name, I'm not going to name her last name, it's Sharon, that can clarify that I did work in a casino, and I did have the opportunity a couple of times on nights. And I did get the sack for pinching a poxy bottle of whiskey from the bar when, and the following week, it was going to set up the robbery. So I'm not on here to lie. So people can slag me off as much as they want. I do not care. All right? All I'm asking, out of my heart and out of respect for the dead, Colton, Bernard, Nipper, David, John, let's all get round a table. Let's all be men instead of little children calling each other like I've been calling you. I'm gonna put my hands up. And I'm 61, I should know fucking better, I suppose. Get round a table and discuss it. And what you do after that with your books and your sales and your films, it's up to you. I'm not bothered. But you got you, Colton. You're slagging off Terry Stone, that lot with the films and this and films and that. It's the same people that have come to you to do a film about you. So let's not be hypocrites, okay? Let's be fully grown men. You're a man, Bernard. We don't need to go threatening people, okay? Like you do with it, you're doing at the minute with this young lady. I mean, she wants to tell the truth. Bring Sasha around the table. I mean, she knows a lot more than any of us because she was in Raquel's over that period. Let her speak. Don't threaten her with solicitors and things like that because, in my eyes, you've got something to hide, Bernard. Now, if you've got nothing to hide and you're sweet and clean like you say you are, let her speak. Let her give her opinion. You can judge her after. All right? I think she's being straightforward. And I am being straightforward. Like I say, you can call me all the names under the sun. I'm not bothered. All right? Everything I've done, for the years I've done it, I've been arrested in no period of time. So I was there. You know, you've got someone in the police force, Bernard, that you know quite well. He's only got to check my charge sheets out and say, oh, look, Brian was arrested that time in Basildon. Yep, arrested that time in Manchester. Yes, he's arrested that time in Hull. For assaulting a bloke, a taxi rank. I have no reason to lie. You with me? And I've done my letter for Mickey, and it's a good letter. And I hope that he gets out, okay? He's done long enough. And I hope that with all the powers we have, and the truth comes out, and with all the help from David, in time, we can overturn their convictions. And I hope we nail the main person that done it. Now, police will be looking at this and thinking, hold on, look, Brian knows too much. Let's shut him up. Come and shut me up. Go on, I've got a solicitor now. I know how far to go. And I'm willing to step my neck on the line. Jack Bowler, Gary. We all know you took backhanders. We all know you went quiet. Yeah, okay, information was fed to you to get rid of the small lot. But the big lots were coming to us. And you got a bit greedy with the money. All right? We know that. So there was arguments. I disappeared. Yeah, I did disappear. I disappeared because I was sick and tired of getting the good hidings. All right? I'm only human. A body can only take so much. So let's put these theories here. All right? The young girl dies. The pressure's on. Bernard does his bit. All right? Goes into hiding. For what reason, I don't know. Someone says that they were after him. All right? I know Craig didn't like you. For what reason? Well, we know the reason why, but I've got to watch what I say about you, Bernard, because with you, I'm threatening you. You can't have a proper debate. Brian, tell the fucking truth. Brian did this. If I say something, you come out with a threat, or you come out, I've got something on you. You got anything on me, Bernard, that makes me out to be a liar, put it on here. Show people. All right? Show people that everything I've said is a lie, but you can't. You threaten to go to Lorraine. She won't fucking speak. Lorraine don't like me, all right? I admit that. We don't get on. But that's not because of what's going on here. Past a bit of the book, but how we were treated in life and how she treated my son, all right? Her own grandson. So, and how other things were done. That's our business. I don't talk to Sharon, all right? And I definitely don't talk to Michael. And I feel sorry for Michael. Okay, he got done for the cannabis, and I'm partially to blame for that. It was my car, and I knew I was under surveillance. So I'm going to put my hands up on that one and take that. But I'm going to go back a bit now, Bernard, to Raquel's days. You say you don't know me, all right, but you're telling people you put me on my arse. That's up to you. And if you did, I'd turn around and say, yeah, you did, Bernard, and I probably deserved it. Now, we went Raquel's one day, all right, one night, on a Saturday. There was me, Craig, Emmons was there, Rob Emmons, all right, and a few others, and Michael, my brother, the quiet one. Once very good looking, wouldn't say boo to a cat. Now, he was down the bottom bar, near the dance floor, talking to some lass, all right? So this is what I heard. The lass had a boyfriend, quite a stocky lad, and he smacked Michael. Michael wouldn't fight him back, and they both got slung out by you, Bernard, you and your doorman, okay? We found out about this. We went downstairs to find Michael. Craig had a go at you, all right? We went outside, we found the lad, we give the lad a good hiding at the burger van. We come back to see you, and you put the bar across the doors, so we couldn't get back in. So Craig said, don't worry about it, time will come. So I don't know what happened after that. But you never, ever decked me, all right? And I swear to that, on my son's life, you've never, ever put me on my arse. You've never, ever threatened me, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to keep going on. I'm not going to be a child. All I want is us round the table. You know what I mean? Colton, it's hard to say, I've got respect for you because of your football days, all right? And I know you lost your good friend. And I know you and Tony fell out in 95. For some reason, I've heard so many stories why you fell out. You know what I mean? Craig told me it was over money, but I don't know. I can only take what people say, all right? So you wasn't around that time and you never got that phone call, all right? Now, I know for a fact that Craig had a gun on him because I see him just before he got shot. So the gun was never found. It wasn't found around his house and it wasn't found in the Range Rover. So that gun went missing somewhere. So they were told up. No idea who they were meeting. I don't think, in my heart, those two were ever involved in it. They were set up. So I still believe, in my eyes, the police had a bit of a play in it to get rid of them. Why? Were too much to handle? Or two, the blackmailing. And I believe that one of them, Pat or Tony, or it could have been Craig, were trying to blackmail Jack Bowler and Gary because of what was going on with Leah Betts. Now, people say she died because of the pill, dodgy pill. It wasn't because of the pill, it was because of what she had too much water on her brain. And I can't turn back the clock, and I wished I could. No one wants to see anyone pass away, and same as Whitaker. That should never happened. But I don't have control of those sort of things. I was a small fish in a big pond. I was no one special. I didn't want to be special. I didn't want to be part of their violence and everything. All I'd done was made money for myself out of the cars and the banker's drafts. And when I did try and get out, it was hard. But the last good I did, I had to go. And I went. So all I'm asking yous lot out there, come on, let's be adults. We can go on big podcasts and talk to people and put the stories out and say all this and all that and you know what you want to say, whether it was a lie or the truth. But I know some of the things are coming out are lies. Lies from you, Bernard, and lies from you, Colton. So once again, I put it out to you. Meet me in a public place so you ain't going to bash me fucking brain in. You with me? Or get round a table, a proper table. Someone's got to be able to get on with Sky. Sky would do it. Sky would scream their fingers out. I don't care if you get paid for it. And have a debate. A proper debate. I'm sure David could organise something with Sky. Or goes to one of these big podcast companies with me. Dodge. James. You know what I mean? See if they'd be all right to do it. Even Terry. See if Terry would get a table and get us all round it. I know Terry don't like coal, but put the past behind us. All right? It's 2024 now. All right? Not 1995. 2024. We're all adults. We're all getting old. Let's get on there and tell the truth. Tell the truth what happened in 95. Because I don't know a lot of it. And I'd like to know. I'm just listening to the stories that some of you lot come out with in 94, 93, 92, 91. So come on. For me, that's a lot to ask. All right? For the three dead. Yeah. You say they're your mates, the three that passed away. Let's do it for them. Let's do it for the families. Let's get out there and put the story down. And if it proves with the story that those two were guilty, I'll put my hands up and I'll say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't think they were. I believe they're not. I believe it's a setup. I believe it's a professional job. But if they're not guilty, let's fight their corner. Let's fight and get their conviction overturned. Let's get the real killer, no matter who it is or what it is, or how much the corrupt police are involved. Let's sort it. Let's stop getting protection from the police and being their best friends. Let's fucking nail the cons. Cheers.
Hi everyone, it's Brian, Craig's brother. I said I'd come on in and tell you some stories about my brother. Some good ones, but mainly bad ones. But first of all, I just want to clear a few things up. Now, for years, I've stayed in the distance, not got involved in any of it. I've done my time in prison for what I did wrong, and I started a new life. Moved away from Essex, got married, 2 lovely kids, job, house paid for, really done well in myself, kept out of trouble. Then I started joining these Essex boy groups, just to be a bit nosy, I think, not to really give opinions or that, like to be a bit nosy. And then I started seeing remarks, silly remarks, especially from Bernard. I mean, some of the things you come out with, like my dad, for instance. What's my dad got to do with it? I mean, they were 3 lads that got involved in drugs and thought they were untouchable. Maybe they were, I don't really know in the end. But to bring that up and then turn around and say that Tony told you that Craig told him about his dad, and that's why he turned out the juvenile delinquents and all this rubbish you keep putting on. Right, let's put this right now for once. Craig wasn't born when Dad was killed. Michael was too. Michael went and lived with Nan and Grandad. They took him up and looked after him all his life until he was old enough to defend for himself, which I think he's still trying now, to be honest with you. And our mum and Nan and Grandad made us promise, me and Sharon, never to tell the truth to them. The past is the past, and if they ever asked where their dad was, what happened, he died of an illness. And we swore we wouldn't tell them, and we haven't told them. So to Craig's dying day, he still believed his dad died of an illness. And so did Michael. Now, I don't know if Michael comes on here, because Mike and Craig were very close. Now, if he has, I'm sorry that Bernard's opened his gob and told the truth. And maybe we should have told the truth years ago. But you've got to try and understand, we're trying to protect you. So, that. Yes, Mum's done her time. She was stupid. She had affairs. I don't know how many. Probably quite a few. But she got punished for it. She has to live with that. Now, we do love our Mum. I'm not going to say we don't. We don't get on with her. She's got her life, and we've all got ours. We'll probably see her about once every 10,000 million years, that sort of relationship. But to come out with that, Bernard, is you've read papers, you with me, and you've got your stories from papers, and you sit there and you come out with crap that you were told this. 1 week you tell one story, next week you tell another story, and you've changed it. Do you know the truth? Do you actually know the truth? Then to come out and say, right, I was a partner with Tony, yeah, Tony and Pat, I'm a partner. You was no more a partner than me, mate. And that's being truthful. I was more a partner than you. I was the one who got cars from on the banker's draft. He didn't tell me fuck all. You know what I mean? And that was my own brother. He wouldn't tell me. If they went on the job somewhere, or went to do something, they wouldn't tell me later on in life. Because there was too many people grassing up and trying to put them in, and too many deals going wrong, so they didn't trust anyone. And it's like you, Colton. I mean, I don't know. You're probably a right nice fucking bloke, and you probably knew Tony. I don't say you knew him for long, but Tony was all Craig, and Craig was all Tony. You know, you couldn't separate them. To turn around and say that you got a phone call to be in the Range Rover that night, and you change your mind, you want to go because of this, that, and that, is rubbish, mate. They wouldn't be tell anyone. They didn't tell their mums, their daughters, their wives, their sisters, their brothers, their cousins. They wouldn't tell anyone what they were doing. That's the way they worked. They only trusted each other. They didn't trust anyone else. Anyway, I'm going to come off that. I'm going to tell you a story about Craig. Now, this is true. All right, I'm not going to lie to anyone. Lying don't pay. So if anyone wants to ask me any questions, I will be honest to them, whether it's nice or not nice. Back in 1992, Craig had a windfall, and he said to his mum, I'm going to treat everyone for an holiday, even me. So he did. He paid for us all to go to Tenerife. Me, Donna, his daughter Georgie, our mum, and our mum's husband Paul. So we met at our mum's house, and Craig pulled up in a minibus. So we all jumped in the minibus and we chuckled off to Gatwick Airport to make our lovely week's holiday in the sun. We had been away for quite a few years. So when we got to the airport, we checked the cases in. As we're walking round to go round to security side to do the passports and get into the waiting room, you with me, we can get duty free and that lot. Walk round and Craig tapped me on the shoulder. How were we? Yeah, what's up? No, come in the gents' toilets. So off we walked into the gents' toilets. I think, what's wrong with you, mister? Something wrong? We got in there. I need you to do me a favour. Yeah, well, what's the favour? I want you to take these 20 E's through for me. You what? Yeah, look, I'll pay for the holiday. You get these through customs for me. So after a bit of iffing and butting, and I thought, well, we'll have a good time, man. Yeah. Okay, I'll do it. So I went into the cubicle and I thought, how am I going to get these through? Right, that's what I'm going to do. So I put fold them into like a strip and wrap toilet paper around them. So it looked like a sausage sort of thing. And I thought, I'm going to put these up my backside. So that was it. I had a go. Now I can understand why women don't want children. Pain, it won't go up there, mate. Not for anyone. So the next thing I thought, well, I put them inside my trainer under my foot, spread them out a bit, and I walk with a limp. Who's going to expect anyone with anything with a limp? So that's what I did. So I walked through to customs, done the passport, and I got the limp. People looking, thinking, look at that lad with a limp. Probably, I don't know. Bit paranoid, I suppose I was. But I didn't start sweating or panicking. I just thought, yeah, I'm going through with this limp. Got through. Got on the plane, got the Tannery. Lovely hotel. Beautiful. Spent a few days around the pool with Mum, Paul, Georgie. Georgie loved it in the pool with Craig. It was something different. You wouldn't picture Craig being the way he is when you see him with his daughter. You know, he'd do anything for her. So one night, Mum said, look, tomorrow night we'll have Georgie and you three go out for a drink. All right? So yeah, no problem at all. So we went out down Veronica's. Craig thought he might know a few people that are on the run or live out. I don't know. He didn't know anyone. Didn't see anyone. So we had some pills, and we sold most of them, which that rate, £15-20 of pills, was good money. So we didn't stay out late because Mum and Paul were going on a trip the next day. So about 2:30 we headed back to the hotel. Wobbled down the street because we all had a few drinks too much. I think it was more or less holding Craig up than Craig holding Donna up. So when we got to the hotel, we went for reception. It was only on the second floor, went up a flight of stairs. And we got to the second floor, just come around the corner, we could hear someone screaming. So what's going on here? So we got onto the landing, and who was screaming? Our fucking mother having a go at this bloke. And this bloke was having a go at her. And it was a big chap. It wasn't aggressive. I wouldn't say he was going to beat her up or anything, but he was swearing. So we walked down, and Craig said to his mum, what's going on here? So his mum tried to explain to him that this bloke here is making too much noise and keeping Georgie awake. And she's tried to ask the lad to calm down, and he's getting a bit irritable. Put it that. We've all had drink, we all can get a bit loud. So Craig's asked him to, like, mate, come on, leave it. And the bloke's gone, where the like that. Well, Craig and Donna walked off. What's going on here? So I've stepped in, trying to be the little go-between, you know. I wasn't as pissed as everyone else. So I said to them, look, we all had a drink and we all regret the next day. Let's just call it a night and go to bed. Like I say, it was more loud shouting and screaming, effing and blind, and Mum won out by giving her pennies worth. So I think Mum encouraged it a bit. And there was Paul standing behind her like, yes, Lorraine, do you want me to bring you a cup of tea, or would you like me to bring a chair out for you? He was sort of the quiet person, wouldn't get involved in anything. He walked around as though he's looking Jack the lad, but he won. Next minute, Craig walked down the landing with a beer bottle in his hand, walked up to the bloke and hit him straight in the fucking side of the head. The bloke went to the floor like a sack of potatoes, blood pissing out the side of his head. The bloke was out cold. Mum's turned round, screaming at Craig, calling him all the names in the sun. Why the fuck did you do that? What the fuck have you done? We're in trouble now. Paul's run into the room, come back out of the room with a towel. Lorraine's put the towel over his head. By this time, people on the landing have come out. It's got too loud. Peter standing on the doors looking down what's going on. And I said to Mum, look, just put it on his tie, we'll get something. Next minute, reception come up. I think it was a security man or something come up as well. What's gone on? So my mum turned and said, we just found him on the floor. We just come in and found him on the floor. We know what's happened. So the lady turned around and said, I'm going to get the police and the ambulance. Her English was quite good, even though she was Spanish. So she ran off downstairs. The security man stood there. People still on the landing looking. No one knew what happened at that point of time. Craig's walked off, back to the room. Paul's gone down to tell Craig that the police are on their way. Now, I don't know if there was cameras on the landing. A lot of hotels have them there, but I don't know if they had them then. So Paul's told Craig to fuck off straight away before the police come, and we'll all be arrested. So, that was it. And this is the truth. This is good. About 20 minutes, half hour later, Craig come out of the room. You know he had long hair. Come out of the room. He had a dress on. A long dress. A pair of high heel shoes. And he was carrying a bag. Bit of makeup on him. His suit, to be honest, yeah. And he walked down the landing as though he didn't give a fuck. And no one looked at him thinking, who's that? Is that a bloke or a woman? Because they're more concerned about the chap on the floor and what was going on. There's a few people getting a bit irritated that late at night. So he walked out of the hotel and gone. The police turned up. Ambulance turned up, took over. Mum was taken to her room. The police went in there and started questioning what happened. We all got arrested. Taken to the police station, kept for about 5 hours. Craig didn't. He was gone. He got a flight back to England. So the rest of the holiday was miserable. We tried to make it, for Georgie's sake, still good, because she didn't understand where Dad went. And Mum was still the miserable cow that she can always be sometimes. Donna kept a distance out of the way. When we finally got back to England, about 3 days later, Mum went round to see Craig and give him every bit of penny's worth of language she could. What he did, and that Georgie could have seen it, and it could have traumatised her. What that word, I'm a bit stuck there. And that. But Craig just stood there laughing, as though it's some fucking forward joke. He could have killed the lad. You know, he could have been in a Spanish prison doing life, or we could have been in prison for saying that. It should never have happened. But it did. And that's the way Craig was sometimes. He was very, very quick-tempered. He didn't think about things. He didn't stand and count to 5 and say, look, this could be sorted. It was always violence. It's like once, one of his dealers was dealing some gear in the King's Club, Canby Island. The doorman on there found out, gave him a bit of a slap, took the pills out and banned him. And one of the doormen there, I can remember, was a bloke called Smut. Now, someone said he's part gypsy, I don't know, but I know he was an hard case. Well, Craig and Tony thought we're going to go King's Club and sort this fucking out. So I drove to the King's Club with them. Well, I actually drove them. Pulled in the car park and they walked down to the door where the doorman was. About 3 or 4 doors on the door. And I kept my distance. My days of fighting are over. I want to fight anyway, to be honest with you. I could handle myself, but I didn't go looking for it. A fight broke out. Now, I don't know how it started, and I don't know how it ended, but it did. Tony and Craig come back, sort of laughing a bit, blood cuts and bruises and that, got in the car. As we drove off the King's Club site, Craig started laughing. And Tony started laughing. Now, imagine these two are right, so I'm not going to say fuck or I was going to drive and keep your mouth shut. The next minute, Craig puts pipes on me. Look at this, Tone, look. I've got half a fucking bloke's ear in his hand. He bit the doorman's ear, more or less in half. I think it's funny. That's the way they were. There was no morals. There was no kindness to them when they was on coke or ease. They were evil bastards. To family, to anyone. The best thing you can do when people are that around you is keep fucking stunk.
I never thought it would go this far. I thought, I didn't think many people would follow me. But you have. Because I'm the voice of my brother. He's not here to speak no more, as we all know that. So I'm going to speak for him. And I'm grateful. I've got people in Dubai, America, loads in Ireland, Scotland, and all around England. And I'm so grateful. But I want to ask you lot a favour, please.
we've got a petition going to try and help Mickey. So I'm asking everyone out there that speaks to me, likes me or whatever, please, can you get onto this and sign this petition? I'm asking you, please. You know, as a friend, do it for me, if not for no one else. Let's get Mickey out. Now, I phoned Wakefield Prison Saturday to see what's happened with my application to go and see him. Now, my application has gone to the police station to be vetted by the police. Now, if the police got their hands on it, I can't really see me getting a VO or an order to see him. We'll wait and see. So I get a letter back from the police, I'll bring it on here and show you the excuse they come up with. If hopefully they may say, yes, I can. But I was talking to a lovely lady that works at the prison about Mickey and about his parole. Now, she seems to think that Mickey will not get parole. The reason why, I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble by saying this, she just gives me a little few ideas, you know, hints of what's going on. They are worried with Mickey having dementia that he will not abide by his parole rules, his license rules, that if he does get out, he will talk. So that's what is probably stopping him from getting his parole, is the fact that he won't admit to something he didn't do, which I don't blame him. But I don't think he has to admit to that. I think the fact is that he has to admit to keep his mouth shut, like his mate has, that they can't talk to the media, they can't do this and they can't do that. And I think the way she was saying it, that Mickey will not abide by that. He wants to prove he's innocent. So the only way I can see Mickey getting out is by the police officer Dave, fighting his corner as much as he can. And if I can help any more, then I will do. I've sent a letter to the parole board. They might just ignore it. They might just turn around and say, well, okay, this member of the family, let's look into it a bit more. So please sign on to that petition for Mickey. I'll show it once more. If you go onto that site, can you see it, everyone? And please sign on to it. Now, tonight I've come on here to ask a few questions. Okay. Now, my first question I'm going to ask, no disrespect to these people I'm going to ask, is the Blundells. I know one of them has passed away, and I'm sorry about that. But I have to ask something for you. Now, you've got to put yourself in my shoes. If it was your brother, you'd want to ask the question. Okay. Now, I watched your podcast, your videos that you've done with the fucking fat boy. And on the first one, you said you called a meeting. Tony didn't turn up, but Pat did. Okay. You had a word with Pat. You told him, well, this, that, whatever you told him, which I can't remember what the video says, but I can remember some things. You told him that if he didn't sort of get away from it, they'd come at the back and bosh at the back of their heads. You know, they'd gone bosh. And then 3 days later, they were killed. Now, on your second one you did with the fat fucker again, you said the same sort of thing, but it was 2 days later. So what I'm asking you, as a man to man, now you can turn around and say, don't fucking disrespect my night, Willie, I'll come after you. Well, that's fair enough. I have to ask this question. Was it 3 days? Was it 2 days after you had a meeting with Pat? Or did you not have the meeting? Is it something that Berners asked you to say to put his ratings up? I've got to ask it. And that's what I'm asking you. You know, did the meeting really happen? Now, I'm not going to say no more, and I don't want to disrespect you, but I have to ask you that question. 1 minute, 3 days, bosh, they were gone. 1 minute, 2 days, bosh, they were gone. To me, it sounds like the meeting never happened, but I could be wrong. I'll either get abused for it or whatever. But anyway, that's all I wanted to ask you, so I'm going to let that one go now, because I know you've got quite a reputation, and I do not want to upset it. I'm only a 5'7" man, and I do not want to get blown away yet. You know what I mean? I know it will happen one day, and I'll end up meeting Craig, and I'll find out the truth then. But yeah, so that's to you. Now, Bernard, we're going to go back to the fucking fat boy, because he's putting his little threats to me again. Bernard, little messages. Now, this message was, he is going to do a video with Gary Duckrow. Now, Gary Duckrow, as you know, was the drug squad officer that asked me to put drugs in Craig's car. And he took £2,000 out of the 10,000 when we ripped that bloke off that car, that Mercedes. So, Bernard, if you want to get Gary in here to do a video about me and mention me, bring it on. I fucking have my day, bring it on. You said you're going to go and see Lorraine and get my mummy to do a video about me. But Lorraine won't speak to you, fat boy. See, no one likes you. Why don't no one? I'm surprised you've got the support. Well, you ain't got much support now, because all your life you've lied. You've lied in court untold time. You've lied to prisoners that are doing time, saying that you're someone you're not. So you're just a compulsive liar. That's all you are, Bernard. A horrible, compulsive liar. Are you listening to me, Bernard? You're a compulsive fucking liar. And on your videos, okay, Bernard, you say about the evidence you got. Now, I've got this evidence, and this woman see this, and this bloke see Mickey turn around and look at the back of the road. So once you put the jigsaw together, it's complete. It's complete, you know what I mean? It's jigsaw. So what I've done, Bernard, because I fucking love you, you fat bastard. I've got you a jigsaw. And I've took 2 bits out of it. Let me see you complete this fucker. And on it says 6-year-old plus. So it's about your mortality in it. So that's for you, Bernard. And I'm going to post that to you because I've got your address. Okay, so I'm going to post that to you. And what I've done, Bernard, because I'm a decent person, you know, I really am a decent person. I took 2 bits out of the jigsaw. So when that comes to you, you can say you completed it, can't you? Even got 2 bits missing. So that jigsaw's on its way to you, fat boy. And another thing, fat boy, okay? I've got something else I want to show you. Well, you've probably seen it, but how close we used to, eh? Look like 2 lovers in a nightclub. And then 2 lovers round his flat, probably shagging each other, I don't know. So how close were you to Mr. Murray? Hey, let's have some fucking truthful answers now. You said of being that leech that sucks everything out of people and turns it into lies after lies after lies. Be a man for once. Because we know you lie. You lied about Kenny, didn't you? Hey, Kenny, no, you know what I mean? We know you lied. So you've lied all your life. You were fucking... You just like lying. You just like... I don't know whether it's because you never had any friends, Bernard. And you think if you lie, people will like you. But the thing is, people catch on and they realise what fucking bullshit that geezer's coming out with. So carry on doing your videos. Get me mother, Lorraine. Get Gary, who's quite up in the police force now. Get him to come on and do a video. We can have a little chat, me and Gary, can't we? Because he's fucking corrupt. Same as Jack Bowler's corrupt. We know. Anyway, I'm not going to say no more about you little fat bastard. Eh? Another thing is, Colton, I've just watched a video about Colton. It fucking made me laugh. Colton was the one that employed Bernard. So I believe he's saying now, it's different, isn't it, from the rest of his fucking videos of it, that he got Bernard the job in Raquel's. Bernard's going to lose a door if he didn't do the fucking VAT and everything. So That's how Bernard got to know Tony, because he was doing the VAT receipts and everything to make it look kosher, which is another fucking lie from Colton. So I class Colton as a rat. Now, rats, if you read out about rats, rats are greedy and selfish. And that's what you are, Colton. The reason why you're greedy and selfish, I'll tell you. Because you come on here on your podcast when you're dealing with people and you say that Tony was like a brother to you. And when he died, you fell on the bed crying your eyes out. You was crying. Oh, my best mate. Yeah, all you do is slagging him off saying he's a fucking crackhead. See, that's why you get the selfish and greedy, because you've made money out of your fucking best mate's brother. But you can't come on here and answer my question. Simple questions. You can't come and face me. Little old Brian, eh? Little old Brian. You just can't come and face me and answer me. What is it? I don't know, Brian. I didn't know Craig had a brother called Brian. I never met him. I never said I have met you. I just know about you. See, I had the brother, Craig, that was very close with Tony. Tony thought more of Craig than he did of you, you fat fucker. And you never put your bouncers together and had this fucking business shit. Just tell the truth. You're getting old like me now. Even you're losing your fucking supporters, Colin, because the reason why people are knowing you're a liar now, because you put something in your book about Terry Stone, and Terry Stone put something in his book about you. Right? Terry came on the other day with Yummy B and said he lied. This is why, Colton, you can't tell the truth either. You've lined your pocket. Good on yous. Listen, you've probably got a story to tell. I don't give a fuck about how much money you've made, how much fucking money the fat boy's made. That's between you two. But try telling the truth. Try coming in and say to everyone that's followed you, with me, and brought your books and that, and say, actually, look, I am a decent bloke, and I've lied about a few things. You know what I mean? Like the phone call, being arrested. You are a fucking comedian. And say, look, I apologise, but Tony was me fucking best mate. Okay, we did fall out. We did do a bit of business together. You know what I mean? And I classed him as a brother. So, because I class you as a rat, Colin, I've brought you a book, The Year of the Rat. Now I'm going to send this to you. You want to fucking read it about the greedy little rats and the selfish people they are. So that's for Colton, and the jigsaw's for Bernard. Now, if you want to send me something you used to, I'll accept all gifts. No problem. Record delivery. If you can't afford the post, just send them and I'll pay the other end. I'm not bothered. Anyway, we're going to come off those two fucking idiots because that's all they are. Now, I asked to get round the table, as you know, and I asked the big podcasters to all do one. The only thing is, not one podcaster out there, except for Terry, all right, and I like Terry Stone, will do a podcast with the fat man. No one is interested in fucking touching him. Why is that, Bernard? Because people can see through you. They can see through your lies. They can see what you are, a deceitful, lying, fat fucking egg. So, now, I know you brought your final books out, your final 5 books, and I guarantee you, everyone out there, I'm going to be in these final books. You know why? He's going to turn around and say, I knew that Craig drugged Brian. Yes, I did. But you didn't, did you? So I told you. So that'll be in the book. Then he's going to put, I know the machine gun come from Manchester because they told me, Tony, my best partner, told me. But you didn't know that either, did you? Hey. So all this shit about going down the lane and Pat was going to run out machine gun fucking fire at the plane and it's like, you know, and a ton of cannabis. You come out with stories after stories after stories. But the truth is, you're like me, mate. No one knows why they went down that lane. And Bernard, you're getting older, you've got grandchildren. You know, you've got a son and you've got grandchildren. Don't you think when they get older, they're going to, you know, the stick they're going to get from people saying, "Oh, was your dad Bernard? Yeah, my granddad was, but he was a lying cunt, he was, wasn't he?" Just tell the truth. For their sake, they have to live beyond you, don't they? They have to be in the future. You know what I mean? Have some respect for your fucking children. So, goodbye, Bernard, you get on me tits. Right. So, I have made a complaint to the police complaints officers. Okay, it's gone to Kent. Now, David, who the ex-policeman that's fighting Jack and Mickey's corner, and I have a lot of respect for him. I'm not calling him, far from it. He's doing a fantastic job with the rest of the lads. Now, I mentioned the other day I was doing, and he asked me to leave it. But, David, please understand, I'm not being rude. This isn't about you, okay? This is about, the fact is, my brother and Tony, and probably Pat, could still be alive today doing a long sentence in prison if it wasn't for the corrupt Essex police in the 90s and 80s, okay? Now, I know they're corrupt. I was part of it. You know what I mean? I give money to them for favours. So I know they were corrupt. But I'm doing this for my brother, okay? So if it gets proven, it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard. It's going to be a fighting battle for me. But there's another couple of things I'm going to explain to you in a minute before my battle starts. All right? He's my brother. And if I do win any sort of compo for him, the money will go to Georgie. Money will go to Kevin Whitaker's son. Money will go to Pat Tate's son. And the rest of the money will go to Tony's daughter. I will not take a penny out of it, okay? It'll be those four and the company that are putting up the money up front to fight it for me. Yes, I've had someone get in contact with me that is willing to back me on the grounds that the information that I pass over is read by solicitor first. And if there's a case to be answered, he will back me. He will take his cut. It could be a fucking big cut. I don't know. But he's going to back me all the way. So I am going to fight him. I am going to name the officers I want to know. I know a couple of fucking passed away and retired. But it goes to the top list, doesn't it? In my eyes. In my eyes and my heart, those two are innocent. This all boils down to this killing and this shooting and this assassination, whatever you want to call it. It's down to that young lass being killed. Okay? It's all down. When she was put in the paper, it went fucking wide. As far as the government, it went nationally, abroad. The world see it. So these people had to be punished for what they did. And that's my opinion when they got punished. They were shot because of that. And the police were involved. Some certain way they were involved. Look at it. Craig got pulled over, okay? He gave my brother's name. Didn't give my name, which I thought he did. He didn't give Michael's name. But he had CR. So they were told to let him go. Okay, Craig went to the police station to sign on. CID were there. Unclothed officers. They knew he was disqualified. They didn't do anything. An officer in the drug squad went down to the Range Rover that morning, found him dead, but didn't report it. Only reported to his senior officer, didn't he, Mr. Bird? Hey, so there's corruption there. There's bent police that go, I don't know, what can you do with this? Now all these things are coming out about the police force, how corrupt they are, and this special police officer right at the top's kicking them out. I'm hoping it goes that side. I don't care if someone in Essex Police is in charge of the complaints section in Kent, and Dave and that thing is just going to get pushed under the carpet. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to fight it to the fucking top. I'm going to put a letter into Parliament my local MP. I'm going to really push and push to get these bent bastard coppers done for what they are. So I apologise to you, Dave, if you don't like me doing what I'm doing, but I'm doing it for the right reasons. Okay? And never know, my right reasons might help fucking Jack and Mickey better than yours. I don't know, but I'm going to go all the way. So that's my things. So the question to the Blundells, okay? Question to Bernie. Bernie, you out there, you fat fucker? Stop lying. Colton, you're getting as bad as him with your fucking lies and your fancy dreams. 1 minute, you and Colton, you and Bernie were fucking mates, and you fell out. Why did you fall out? Eh? Because you've lied too much, or Bernie didn't like what you were saying and lie, because his lie didn't match your lie. So you both lied, and you fucking tripped over each other. Like I said, you lied about Terry Stone. And Terry Stone wrote saying in his book lying about you. So you both lie. But Terry's got the balls to come out and admit it. I respect him for that, and I'd love to go on his show in time, and I will go on his show. But if I go on it, nothing's going to be fucking stopped. The things I want to come out with are going to stay, and people are going to see it. That's my condition. I've got a couple of more business to go and see. You know what I mean? Dodge. I will get on Dodge's show. I mean, I let the bloke down because I couldn't get there, and it was a shame. But I'll go and see Dodge. Liquid Bullet. There's a few people I'll go and see. And I'm going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to Bernard and Colton get back under their fucking stone where they belong. Because you're a couple of fucking lowlifes, the pair of yous. You really are. Listen, I went today, like I say, I went for a medical day. Yes, Wolverhampton. I met 100 people, and I asked them if they knew Bernard Maloney in Wolverhampton, and they turned around and said, "We've heard of him. He's a lying fucker. We kicked him out of our city." So that's anyway. I went for a medical. I passed my medical with flying colours. The doctor said I've got a body of a 21-year-old. No matter how old the face is, the body is 21. Look, so now next week I've got some courses to go on. Some exams for work. I pass them, and then I climb that ladder and get a bit up the top. So I am going to climb, and I'm going to beat someone like I have been for the last 20 odd years. I give up crime, and I hope sometimes my little videos go out, and they go out, and these young kids watch them. You know, these lads that run a few drugs or commit a crime, and they listen. You can turn your life around, okay? No good thinking you can't, and that's only a one-way road for you. It's not. I turned my life around, and I'm better off for it. I have a house, I have a beautiful wife, 2 children, a good job. I'm respected in my community. I'm respected on these videos, so it can be done. So all you kids out there that think that's the only way of life, and I know some of you've had a bad life like I've had, probably worse than me. But don't let it get you down. There's a bright future out there if you want it. I couldn't read or write when I left school. I'm still quite bad now. So that's not an excuse to fail. We all want money. We all want nice money. We all want. You get kids these days go to work and they go on a building trade and they think they can earn £22. And they've only 2 weeks. It doesn't work that way. You have to climb the ladder. You have to keep out of prison, because there's no place for anyone. Prison. Keep out of prison and say to myself, I would like a lovely car. I'd like nice clothes. I'm going to work for it. And you'll find by doing that, you'll be more respected than you will doing the way you're now. So come on, you children out there. Take a bit of advice from an old man that's been around, done most of it, regretted most of it. Had some good times though. I'm not saying it was all bad. And I changed my life around. You get out there and change your life. I'll do some more videos in the week about my brother. I don't want to talk too much, because if I do my talks, I don't have it left, will I? Joking, there's loads of talk about fucking Craig, good and bad. He was no idiot. Mark my word for it, he was no idiot. He was the brains behind those three. Tony was a muscle. Pat was the greedy person. Good afternoon, 2 in a week. Well, I am pushing it, and I'm really pushing it. What I've come in here for is to just tell you that Terry Stone phoned me yesterday, and I got to give him a bit of respect for that. He phoned and he sort of apologised to me for what the laughing bit of it on his show, and he explained to me why he laughs, and I understand, and like I say, I accept it. And then he goes on a podcast last night and puts it out there, which, you know, I've got nothing against Terry, to be honest with you. He does giggle a lot, but that's Terry for you. But what I didn't understand last night, a couple of things, Terry, I'm going to put to you now, and maybe you think I'm a bit of an insulting fucker, I don't know. It doesn't bother me anymore. And then I'll go on to your mate, because your mate's getting a bit out of order with some of the things he's putting on. You done a podcast like and explained to everyone that you spoke to me, which you did. Like I say, I respect that. You know, it doesn't hurt to be polite, as they say. And you explain why you do giggle a bit, and why you giggle. It wasn't that the fact you was laughing at the fact I changed my name, like many people do change their name. Like Bernard's gone from Bern Maloney to Bernard King to Bernard McDonald's, I think, or Burger Van, I don't know. So then we go on. But yesterday you said you like me to come on your show, and you know, I don't reject anyone. You know, I come on and I tell the truth, whether people believe me or not. I'm not bothered about what people's opinions are. But at the moment, I'm doing well for myself. I've been going for about just over a year now with these little, as Bernard says, little videos. I've got nearly 8,000 subscribers coming up. I've got untold lovely messages. I think it's on Liam Tuff's one. I got something like 96.6 fantastic, and something like 4% no. So I'm doing well for myself. But last night you're going about me, and then you're going about Colton. You have no beef with Colton, which I'm a bit lost, because yesterday when you phoned me, you said we both have someone in common we don't like, meaning Colton. Now, I'm coming on here now, and I'm going to put it out there now. I'm not going to put Colton down anymore. I've asked Colton me questions. He don't want to answer, and I'm not gonna make him. That's up to the lad. I wish him all the best with Joe, and I won't put any remarks on X to Joe. You with me? I wish, and I truthfully do. I wish you all the best. I'm not going to say any more. I think you've been through enough, and what you've done on James English, your podcast with your dad and that, and your daughter, your sister, is very, very sad. And we all do have a sad past that affects us in many ways. So I'm going to wish you all the best, Colton. And I swear on my wife and son's life, I will not come on here and slag you off no more. Okay? So get on with your life with Joe and do what you got to do, mate. Just look after yourself, because you know, you had a bit of a cough and I don't know what's going on. So just look after yourself, and I wish you all the best. But like I say, Terry, you come on here and you're saying you know beef with Colton. You're telling me different over the phone. So for that reason, and plus another thing, Terry, I don't understand. You put a podcast on Bernard Grills Brian Rolfe. Now, I'd like you to take that down, because Bernard's never grilled me. I've never spoken to Bernard face to face. So I don't know why you put that up. It's like, but I'll tell you, be honest with you, it's like bullying, and I don't like bullying. If someone's got to ask me a question, and I'll answer it truthfully. If I can't answer it, I'll say, no, I cannot answer that question. Now, some of the theories I've put out there is what people are telling me. And these people have been around in their days, and they've disappeared for years like I did and come back on the scene. And Bernard knows what I'm talking about. So I can't see why they want to lie. So that's me and you, Terry. So look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to come on your show. You've got a lot more celebrities and better people than me that, you know, you'll go a long way with. But after seeing that video you put on last night about Bernard grills me, I think that's the last straw between me and you, mate. And I wish you all the best. Now, Bernard's come on, okay, and said that I'd done 7 years in prison for dealing drugs in Rackels. Now, I've asked Bernard a few times to prove this so-called statement, or whatever it is, and he's took it down now. Now, I've took a photocopy of that, Bernard, because you've got to understand, I work for a company like many other people do, and if that goes up for a company and people start seeing it, I could get the sack for it. You with me? Because I've never been done for drug selling. So, like you say, you've got the proof. I ask you, please, like again, put it up and show. And then you're going about Michael, okay? Right. Craig phoned me and asked if Michael could borrow one of my cars. I had the P1 pickup truck, I had my car, and I had the Mini Metro, which I've told you all. Now, Michael come round that day, picked the Mini Metro up. I had no idea where Michael was going. But you're saying when Michael went to Canvey Island, to someone's house, that he was being filmed in a house across the road. That's what you're telling me. So the police would have known well in advance this was going down. But how? Because Michael come this morning and took the car, and I didn't know where Michael was going. So yet again, you say you have Michael's appeal papers and you can prove that I grassed him up. Prove it. Because all you do, Bernard, is lie. You come out with statements that you cannot back up. And for that reason, I won't be doing a podcast with you either. Because what's the point of me coming on, sitting opposite you and discussing the Essex boys and what we know and what we don't know, when all you do is lie out your teeth? You've lied from day one. See, what I don't understand as well, Bernard, okay, Mickey Steele, you say he's guilty, fair enough, you have your opinion. Me, I don't think he is, for what I've been told, but I wasn't around in the days of the murder scene, and I've never said I was. But why do you keep trying to stop him from getting out? Why do you keep carrying on? It wasn't your brother, your dad, your uncle that was killed. So why do you so possessive to keep him in prison? If he did it, okay, they've done their time. Let them come out, let them have the rest of their life. Like any murderer. Now, if it was you that was accused and put in prison for the murders, okay, and Vinny kept running round protesting your innocence, and people like me saying, no, he's fucking guilty, we're going to keep him there, Vinny wouldn't be happy with me. So I cannot understand why you're so possessive, so bitter and angry just to keep Mickey in prison, just to prove they're guilty or not guilty. Walk away from it. I mean, you say about the Essex boys, and it was you that come up with the fucking name. Go back years ago when you done your live shows. What was it, live show one in Kilroy? Yeah, it was. My partners used to supply drugs in the clubs. Yeah, and all this lot of my partners. Yeah, killed someone. You know, big fucking Bernard. It wasn't your partners, mate. You might have been friends with Tony, and probably Pat and Craig. You might have been friends. Hello, goodbye. But you was never a partner. Never. Everyone keeps saying that. Never a partner. No one in those days, from Lee Chapman to Mike Kelly, no one has ever said, Colton, that you was a partner. You was a nobody. But you're so consistent to keep Mickey in prison, which I do not understand one bit. Are you hiding something? Do you want people to convince, you're trying to convince people that you're hiding something when you're not? I got the funny feeling you're going to pop up a letter when your days come and say, I killed the Essex boys. That's what I think you're going to do. But listen, walk away from it. You keep saying you're going to wipe your hands off the Essex boys. Well, you've had a colourful life. Look, you went Africa. You went Ireland. Talk about those days, you know, when you was a soldier. Talk about those days. And when you're not, you know, an African, you're in the prison and you escape with an A4 bit of paper. I don't think James Bond could do that. But yeah, you escape with 2 suitcases. You come in again. But when I ask you questions, okay, Bernard, about going to Maidstone prison with Mark to see Reggie, okay, and you asked Mark to take some gear with you for Reggie, and you got pulled, didn't you, by the police? Now, this is on record. You can't lie this one out, and I've been told this as well. You get pulled. Mark gets searched and released. He has nothing on him. He's innocent. But there's a warrant out for your arrest. So you're arrested and kept in the police station. Did you go to court the next day, or did you walk? Only you can answer that. But that is on black and white, on record, that you were going to Maidstone prison with Mark. You asked Mark to take a bit of gear with him. You got stopped, probably because you phoned the fucking police. Okay, Mark had nothing, and you got arrested for a warrant. And then we go back to Raquel's days when the poor lass passed away. Okay, did you not take some stuff off Gary Murray, eh? And give that stuff to your two little lads to sell on? See, I know a lot of things. It's like the list in Mark's flat don't exist either, does it? Because I've been told that it don't exist from the man that owned the fucking flat. So all you do is lie to benefit you and benefit your pocket. But your days are coming. People are seeing through you now, Bernard. The amount of remarks that are coming up and the people are calling you all the names under the sun. I mean, don't you sit back and think, well, I've had enough now. Look, I'm just going to end my life. Go and find the rest of your gangsters and talk to them. You know what I mean? Whatever you do. But you've got grandchildren. You've got Vinny. I mean, people that look up to you and respect you. And I've got a lot of time for Vinny. He hasn't been on here threatening me. He hasn't been on arguing me. He's been polite. And you brought the lad up good. I'll give you that. Like I brought my lad up good. But it's about time, Bernard, you just walked away from it. I come on here and tell my stories. I don't need you to insult me and say I'm lying this and I'm lying that. You don't know me. You do not know me. You only know me from Raquel days. It's like you say to me, where was the filming took on Dispatches? Raquel's in that big hotel. You haven't come back and said, no, it wasn't. Because you know for a fact we met at the Dispatch meeting. You know for a fact I used to go Raquel's. You say Craig never stepped in Raquel's. Pat probably went once, Tony a couple of times. But everyone that comes on here in the days of Raquel's, even the old doorman that used to work with you, Bernard, say they're in all the time. You with me? So stop lying. We went Raquel's before you fucking even come to Basildon. And then you slag the girls off in Essex. The Basildon girls. Didn't you marry one? A lovely lass and get married to her. And have, you know, your lovely children. So I don't understand why is your bank account running out of money? Is that what it is? And you just want to keep fobbing at stories that don't exist. Listen, you can put me down as much as you want. And to the day you prove that I'm lying, I'm just making yourself look stupid. You're going to put up this fucking 7 years and drug things. You know, it hasn't come yet. You just removed it. But like I say, I've took photocopies of it. Photos of it, what do you call it? And the rest of the stuff. Carry on doing it. Go on. And if my employees get hold of it and I'm sacked because of it, I will be seeing you in the nearest court I can. Because that allegation is false. You can call me anything. You can call me a grass. Yes, I did grass Craig up twice. I've put my hands up to that and I have to live with it. Okay? But to put other things up online that you've got proof, if you've got proof about Michael and them sitting across the road in the house filming it, put it up. Please put it up and show everyone. And then you put it there. Listen, I'll do a deal with you. You put it up that I so-called said I'd done 7 years for drugs in Raquel's. And you put it up that they were sitting across the road and I grassed them up. I will come off YouTube and I will come off Facebook. I promise you that. If you can prove that I'm lying. But you can't. Now, I've got a lot of information on you, a lot of stories that have come from someone that you even sent me a letter to you. Sorry for fucking how I've been towards you. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Now, you know who I'm talking about. You know the letter. So carry on, and I'll start telling some things about you that are going to shock a few people that someone's told me. I told the person I wouldn't, but I owe no one nothing. Like no one owes me anything. So that's to the pair of you. Terry, I've got no grudge against you, but I won't be coming to show, mate. Not when you go on last night and you're saying you got no beef with Colton, yet on the phone yesterday it was totally different. Yeah, I recorded the conversation, so I can put that out. And then you put out that video, that podcast, that Bernard grills me. That's a bit out of order, because Bernard's never grilled me. He'd never get the chance to grill me. If the bloke could tell the truth, I'd sit round the table with him. But it's pointless me sitting around the table with Bernard if all he's going to do is lie about everything. And that's all he's done for the years. He's changed his story so many times. You know what I mean? I don't understand it. Anyway, I'm not going to say any more about you, Terry. I wish you all the best in the future, and I hope you become the biggest podcaster person going. I really do. That's how you think you're going to go, and I wish you all the best. And I wish you all the best in your career. I think you're a brilliant actor, and in the films, I think you're good. Okay, and all the rest. And Colton, like I say, I'm not going to put you down or ever go at you or say anything no more. I've asked you to sit with me. You won't. That's understandable, and I understand that. You won't answer my questions, I understand that. So I'll leave it. People can judge from there onwards. So I'm going to have to go back to... I'm actually off to 2 days. I'm doing some work in front of the house, 2 days holiday. So as you can see, I'm in the wife's summer house again. Yes, summer house. Hopefully I'll be able to afford to get a shed when I save up. See, I do talk shows as well, but I don't get paid for them. I don't ask for money. The money goes to charity. So anyway, you never know. Next year, I could be on a podcast somewhere and tell stories that someone will never know or someone will be pissed off about. You know what I mean? Mr. Bernard Maloney. It would be like Eamon Andrews. Bernard, this is your life. And no one comes in because you've got no friends. The book is blank. Totally blank. The only person to be sitting next to you will be your children and your grandchildren. And the 1 or 2 silly little fucking keyboard warriors are out there that don't even know me. Like I say, yes, I did grass Craig up twice. So call me a grass as much as you want. Sticks and stones, the old saying, mate. I've been pushed about all my life, but no more. So Bernard, once again, be a man. Prove what you've been saying about me up here or a podcast. Prove it in black and white, and I will shut my YouTube down and I will come off Facebook and I will never bother you or the Essex boys again. It's in your hands now, kid. See you later, everyone. Bye.
The Rettendon murders not only shook the foundation of Essex criminal underworld, but also cast a long shadow over the UK's broader societal perceptions of crime, justice and punishment. The brutal execution-style killings of Tony Tucker, Tate and Craig Rolfe in a quiet country lane unveiled the grim realities of gangland hierarchies, the lucrative yet perilous drug trade, and the fragile nature of trust amongst thieves. Their deaths became a watershed moment, prompting both law enforcement and the public to confront the burgeoning issue of organised crime with renewed urgency. As the years have passed, the narrative surrounding the Rettendon murders has morphed into a complex tapestry of fact, speculation and myth. The convictions of Michael Steele and Jack Holmes, based heavily on the controversial testimony of a supergrass, have been a lightning rod for debate about the reliability of informant testimony and the potential for miscarriages of justice. This case starkly highlights the challenges faced by the criminal justice system in navigating the murky waters of organised crime, where the lines between victim and perpetrator are often blurred and the loyalties are as changeable as the wind. The cultural impact of the Rettendon murders, immortalised in film, literature and documentaries, reflects the societal fascination with the macabre and outlaw lifestyle. It raises uncomfortable questions about why we are drawn to these stories of violence and betrayal, and what they say about human nature's darker facts. Yet, these narratives also serve as a cautionary tale, reminders of the high costs of living outside of the law, where life is cheap and friendships are often sealed with blood. In the shadow of the Rettendon murders, we are left to ponder the lessons learned and the paths forward. How do we balance the need for justice with the potential flaws in our justice system? Can we ever truly untangle the web of truths and lies that define cases like these? And most importantly, What steps can society take to prevent such tragic outcomes from unfolding in the future? We invite you, the audience, to reflect on these questions. What are your thoughts on the use of informant testimony in securing convictions? Do you believe that the cultural portrayal of the criminals and gangland violence glamorizes a dangerous lifestyle, or does it serve as a deterrent? How should society address the root causes of organized crime to prevent similar tragedies from occurring? The Rettendon murders remain a poignant reminder of the human cost of criminality, the complexities of achieving justice, and the enduring fascination with the lives of those who operate in the shadows of society.